Three 8-year-old girls stared at their father's laptop screen, fingers hovering over the send button. The email they'd written, perfectly mimicking Logan Hayes' professional tone, would change everything. One click would invite Victoria Hale, the youngest billionaire CEO in the city, to dinner. One click would shatter the careful distance their father had maintained for 3 years. One click might bring him back to life, or destroy what little stability they had left. Emma's hand trembled. "What if he hates us?" Sophia whispered. "What if he stays broken forever?" Lily pressed send. The screen blinked. Message delivered. Want to see what happens when daughters refuse to let their father fade away? Stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The kitchen timer buzzed at exactly 6:47 a.m., same as every morning. Logan Hayes stood at the stove, spatula in hand, flipping pancakes with mechanical precision. 3 plates lined the counter, each with 2 pancakes, syrup on the side, orange juice poured to the exact same level. He didn't need to think about it anymore. Routine had replaced thought 3 years ago. "Dad, these pancakes are perfect circles again," Emma said from the doorway, her voice flat in a way that made Logan's chest tighten. He glanced at the griddle. She was right. Perfect circles, perfect golden brown color, perfect spacing, everything perfect and completely empty. "That's good, isn't it?" he asked, knowing the answer. Emma shrugged and disappeared back upstairs without another word. Logan stood there, spatula dripping, staring at those perfect circles. When did he become this person? The man who measured pancakes instead of tossing batter haphazardly while dancing to whatever song made his daughters laugh. The man who scheduled joy out of his life entirely. The answer crawled up his throat like bile. 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days ago. The night Sarah didn't come home from work. The night the hospital called. The night everything that made him Logan Hayes died in an intersection 6 blocks from their house. He scraped the pancakes onto plates and called the girls down for breakfast. They ate in silence. Sophia pushed her food around her plate, creating patterns in the syrup. Lily chewed slowly, watching him with those dark eyes that saw too much for an 8-year-old. Emma didn't look at him at all. "How was school yesterday?" Logan tried, his voice sounding foreign even to himself. "Fine," 3 voices answered in unison. "Any tests coming up?" "No." "Projects?" "No." The silence stretched. Logan cut his pancake into precise squares, eating methodically. He could feel his daughters watching him, but he couldn't meet their eyes. What would they see there? The hollow space where their father used to be? "Can we be excused?" Emma finally asked. Logan nodded, and they scattered like birds from a scarecrow. The office building downtown stood 63 stories high, all glass and steel and money. Logan worked on the 48th floor in a corner cubicle that faced another building exactly like this one. He'd been with Hale Industries for 18 months now, working in the data analytics division. Numbers made sense. Numbers didn't ask him how he was feeling or tell him he needed to move on. "Hayes, conference room in 5, his supervisor called across the rows of cubicles. Logan saved his spreadsheet and grabbed his tablet. Another quarterly review, probably. More numbers, more projections, more things that required no emotional investment whatsoever. The conference room was already half full when he arrived. He took his usual seat in the back corner and opened his notes, not looking at anyone else in the room. Small talk required energy he didn't have. "Good morning, everyone." Logan's head snapped up despite himself. That voice cut through his careful numbness every single time. Victoria Hale stood at the head of the table, 30 years old and already running a billion-dollar empire her father had built. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Logan's monthly salary, her dark hair pulled back in a way that made her look severe and untouchable. But her eyes. Logan had learned to read those eyes over the past year. Right now they were tired, bone-deep tired in a way he recognized. "Let's make this quick," Victoria said, pulling up a presentation on the screen. "I know you all have actual work to do." She ran through the quarterly numbers with brutal efficiency, calling out departments that were underperforming without sugarcoating anything. Some executives shifted uncomfortably. Logan took notes, his mind processing data while his heart stayed carefully locked away. "Analytics division," Victoria's eyes found his across the room. "Your projections for the European expansion were dead on." "Well done." Logan nodded once. That was their pattern. She acknowledged his work. He accepted with minimal response. They both moved on. Professional, clean, safe. Except today her gaze lingered a moment longer than usual, and Logan felt something crack in his carefully constructed walls. He looked away first. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. Logan was halfway to the door when Victoria's voice stopped him. "Hayes, a moment." He turned slowly. The room had emptied except for the two of them. Victoria stood by the window, silhouetted against the city skyline, and for a second she looked less like a billionaire CEO and more like someone carrying weight that might crush her any moment. "Your analysis on the Singapore market was exceptional," she said, still looking out the window. "I'm moving you to the executive team. You'll report directly to me starting Monday." Logan's carefully controlled world tilted. "Ma'am, It's not a request." Victoria turned to face him, and the exhaustion in her eyes was unmistakable now. "I need someone who thinks clearly, who doesn't waste my time with politics or ego. That's you. Your salary doubles, you get an office on 62, and you start attending senior leadership meetings. I don't care what you want, Hayes. I care about what you're capable of." She moved closer, and Logan caught the faint scent of coffee and something floral he couldn't name. "You've been hiding in that cubicle for 18 months doing work that's beneath you. I'm done pretending I don't notice." The words hit harder than they should have. Logan's jaw tightened. "I'm not hiding." "Really?" Victoria's laugh was sharp, humorless. "Then what do you call showing up exactly at 8, leaving exactly at 5, never attending happy hours, never joining conversations, eating lunch alone in your car every single day?" "I call it doing my job." "You're doing half your job." Victoria crossed her arms. "The other half requires being alive, Hayes, and you're not. Not really." The silence that followed felt like broken glass. Logan wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she didn't know anything about him or his life. But the words stuck in his throat because she was right. Devastatingly, completely right. "The promotion stands," Victoria said quietly. "Monday morning, 8th floor. Don't be late." She walked past him, close enough that her shoulder almost brushed his, and left him standing alone in the conference room with his carefully ordered world crumbling around his feet. That night, Logan sat in his car outside the house for 15 minutes before going inside. The lights were on upstairs, the girls doing homework, probably, or pretending to do homework while actually doing whatever 8-year-old triplets did when their father had emotionally abandoned them. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Rachel. "Reminder, girls' recital is Friday. You're going, right?" Logan stared at the message. Recital. Right. The girls had mentioned it multiple times, and he'd nodded along, adding it to his calendar, treating it like another appointment instead of something that mattered. He texted back, "I'll be there." Rachel's response came immediately. "Try to smile. They're watching you more than the audience." Logan deleted the message and went inside. The house smelled like takeout pizza. The girls must have ordered dinner themselves again. Logan found them in the living room, spread across the furniture like puppies, but they straightened when he entered. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "Got held up at work." "It's okay," Lily said automatically, always the peacemaker. "Pizza's in the kitchen," Sophia added. "We saved you some." Emma said nothing, her eyes fixed on her homework with aggressive focus. Logan stood there wanting to say something that mattered, something that would bridge the ocean between him and his daughters. But the words wouldn't come. They never did. "Thanks for dinner," he finally managed. "I'll eat later. You guys finish your homework." He escaped to his home office, closed the door, and leaned against it. The promotion. Victoria's words. His daughter's silent acceptance of his absence. It all pressed down on him until he couldn't breathe. His laptop sat on his desk, and without thinking, Logan opened it. His email inbox appeared. 147 unread messages, most of them automated reports. He started deleting them mechanically, not reading, just clearing space. Then he paused. One email sat at the top of his inbox, marked read, but still flagged. He didn't remember reading it. The sender was his own email address. Subject line, dinner, Thursday, 7 p.m., Giuseppe's. Logan clicked it open, confusion turning to ice in his veins as he read. "Victoria, I've been thinking about our conversation today. You're right, I have been hiding. I'd like to discuss this further, somewhere outside the office." Would you join me for dinner Thursday at Giuseppe's? 7 p.m. My treat. I realize this is unconventional, but I think we both know our professional relationship has evolved into something worth exploring. Logan, his heart stopped. He hadn't written this. He would never write this. The tone was all wrong, too casual, too forward, too human. He checked the sent folder. There it was, sent 6 hours ago. And below it, Victoria's response from 3 hours ago. Logan, I appreciate your honesty. Thursday works. I'll see you at 7. V. Logan's hand shook. Someone had accessed his email. Someone had invited his boss, his billionaire, completely out of his league boss, to dinner using his account. Someone had just destroyed his career and possibly his life. He grabbed his phone, started to call Victoria to explain, to apologize, to... Laughter drifted from upstairs. Small, quickly stifled laughter. Logan's blood turned to ice water. Slowly, very slowly, he climbed the stairs. The laughter was coming from Emma's room. He pushed the door open without knocking. All 3 girls sat huddled around Emma's laptop, their faces glowing in the screen light. They froze when they saw him. What did you do? Logan's voice came out strangled. Sophia's eyes went wide. Lily looked like she might cry. But Emma lifted her chin with defiance that reminded him painfully of Sarah. We helped you, she said. Helped me? Logan stepped into the room, struggling to keep his voice level. You hacked my email and invited my boss to dinner? Do you have any idea what you've done? We know exactly what we did, Emma shot back. We watched you. We studied how you write emails. We made it perfect. It's not perfect. It's insane. Logan ran his hands through his hair. She thinks this is... I have to call her. I have to explain. No! All 3 girls shouted in unison. You don't understand. You don't understand. Emma was on her feet now, tears streaming down her face. You don't understand that we're losing you, that you're disappearing, and we can't stop it. The room went silent, except for Emma's ragged breathing. We miss her too, Dad, Sophia whispered. We miss Mom every single day, but we can't lose you too. Logan felt his knees go weak. He sat down hard on the edge of Emma's bed. I'm right here. No, you're not. Lily's voice was small but steady. You're somewhere else. Somewhere we can't reach you. We don't want you to replace Mom, Emma continued, wiping her eyes. We would never want that. But Miss Victoria is nice. She talks to you like you're a real person. And sometimes, when you work with her, you almost look alive again. So we made a plan, Sophia said. We've been planning for weeks, learning how you type, how you talk, making sure it would work. Logan looked at his daughters, his brilliant, terrifying 8-year-old daughters, and felt the full weight of what they'd done. Not just the email, the weeks of observation, the planning, the desperate hope that they could somehow pull their father back from the dead. This isn't how the world works, he said weakly. You can't just manipulate people into what? Emma challenged. Into living, into trying, into maybe being happy again? I'm not... Logan stopped. He'd been about to say he wasn't unhappy, but that would be a lie. He wasn't unhappy. He wasn't happy. He wasn't anything at all. Thursday is in 2 days, Lily said quietly. You have to go. I'll call her. I'll explain it was a mistake. And tell her your 8-year-old daughters are so worried about you that they catfished your boss? Sophia's eyebrows rose. That'll make you look super stable and professional. Logan stared at his daughter. When had she learned the word catfished? You have to go to dinner, Emma said firmly. You have to pretend you meant to send that email, and you have to try. Try what? To be alive again, Emma's voice cracked. To talk to someone who isn't us or your computer. To eat food without looking like you're completing a task. To just try, Dad. Please. The silence that followed felt like the world holding its breath. Logan looked at each of his daughters. They were so young, too young to be carrying this kind of worry, too young to be planning interventions for their broken father. They should be thinking about dolls and soccer practice and what to wear to school. Instead, they were studying his email patterns and orchestrating dinner dates with billionaires. He'd done this to them. His grief, his shutdown, his retreat into numbness. It hadn't protected them. It had forced them to become adults before they were ready. Giuseppe's is expensive, he finally said. Hope flickered across 3 identical faces. We have money saved, Sophia offered immediately. From birthdays and… No, Logan held up his hand. If I'm going to this disaster of a dinner that you've created, I'm paying for it myself. So you'll go? Lily asked, her voice small and desperate. Logan closed his eyes. Every instinct screamed at him to call Victoria, to confess, to run as far from this situation as possible. But those instincts had kept him locked in place for 3 years. Those instincts had turned him into a ghost in his own home. Maybe it was time to try something different, even if it was terrifying, even if it ended in humiliation. I'll go, he said quietly. The girls erupted in squeals and threw themselves at him, hugging him with a ferocity that knocked the air from his lungs. Logan held them, feeling their small bodies pressed against him, and realized this was the first real physical contact he'd had with them in months, maybe longer. You have to dress nice, Emma said into his shoulder. Not work nice, date nice. This isn't a date, Logan protested weakly. Sure it's not, Sophia grinned. And you have to actually talk to her, Lily added, about real things, not just work. I don't know what that means. We know. Emma pulled back, looking at him with Sarah's eyes. That's the whole problem, Dad. But you used to. You used to be good at talking, at living. We've seen pictures, Mom's videos. Logan's throat tightened. Sarah had recorded everything, birthdays, holidays, random Tuesday afternoons when nothing special happened, but she wanted to remember anyway. The girls must have been watching those videos, studying the man he used to be. I don't know if I can be that person again, he admitted. We don't need that person, Emma said. We just need you to try being some person, any person who's actually here with us. Logan nodded, not trusting his voice. Okay, Sophia said, suddenly all business. We have 2 days to prepare. First, we need to find you something to wear. Those work pants make you look like a depressed accountant. I am a depressed accountant, Logan muttered. Data analyst, Lily corrected. And you're about to be an executive. Act like it. Logan looked at his daughters, these brilliant, scheming, heartbreaking little humans, and felt something shift in his chest. Not healing exactly, but a crack in the ice. A possibility. You 3 are grounded, he said, but there was no heat in it. Worth it, all 3 answered in unison. Oh, Thursday arrived like an execution date. Logan stood in front of his bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the 7th time. The girls had indeed raided his closet, throwing out half his wardrobe and presenting him with a dark blue shirt and gray slacks he didn't remember owning. You bought them 2 years ago for Uncle Mike's wedding, Emma had explained. You never wore them because the wedding was 3 weeks after. Anyway, they still fit. Now, dressed in clothes that felt foreign on his body, Logan looked at himself and barely recognized the man staring back. He looked thinner than he remembered, older, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. You look good, Dad. Lily appeared in the doorway, startling him. I look terrified. That too. She stepped into the bathroom and straightened his collar unnecessarily. But Miss Victoria is nice. She won't be mean to you. That's not what I'm worried about. Logan met his daughter's eyes in the mirror. I'm worried I'll disappoint her. That I'll sit there like a stone and she'll realize I'm not worth her time. You are worth her time, Lily said fiercely. You're smart and you work really hard and you used to be funny. Used to be. You could be again. Lily hugged him from behind. You just forgot how. Logan turned and knelt down to her level. What if I can't remember? Then you learn new ways. Lily smiled, and it was Sarah's smile, the one that had made him believe anything was possible. That's what Mom would say, right? Yeah, Logan's voice cracked. That's exactly what she'd say. Emma and Sophia appeared, both inspecting him critically. Hair's weird, Sophia declared. His hair is always weird, Emma countered. There's nothing we can do about it now. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Logan muttered, running his fingers through his hair anyway. You have to leave in 10 minutes if you want to get there on time, Emma said, checking her phone. Giuseppe's is 20 minutes away with traffic. How do you know that? We researched everything. Sophia pulled out a notebook covered in handwritten notes. Giuseppe's is upscale Italian, reservations required, which we made using your name. The owner is from Sicily and picky about dress code, so no jeans. The wine list is extensive but overpriced. Stick to the house red. They're known for their handmade pasta and wood-fired pizza. Logan stared at the notebook. You made a dossier? We wanted you to be prepared, Lily said simply. Miss Victoria likes white wine better than red, Emma added. We heard her tell someone on the phone once when she was visiting the analytics floor. You were spying? We prefer gathering intelligence, Sophia said with zero shame. Logan should have been horrified. Instead, he felt a strange warmth spreading through his chest. His daughters had put more effort into this dinner than he'd put into anything in 3 years. What do I talk about? He asked, feeling helpless. The girls exchanged glances. Emma stepped forward. Talk about real things, Dad. Not just work. Ask her about her life. Tell her about us if it feels right. Just be a person talking to another person. I don't remember how. Then mess it up, Sophia said. Be awkward. Say the wrong thing. That's what real humans do. Your pep talk needs work, Logan said, but he was almost smiling. You're going to be late, Emma pushed him toward the door. Go, try. Come back and tell us everything. Not everything, Sophia made a face. We're 8, not therapists. Logan grabbed his keys, took a deep breath, and headed for the door. Halfway there, he turned back. His daughter stood in a line, watching him with identical expressions of hope and terror. Thank you, he said quietly, for caring enough to do something this crazy. We love you, Dad, Lily said, even when you forget how to love yourself. Logan nodded, not trusting his voice, and left before he lost his nerve completely. Giuseppe's was exactly as advertised, upscale, warm lighting, the kind of place where people proposed and celebrated anniversaries. Logan felt completely out of place as the hostess led him to a corner table. Your guest hasn't arrived yet, she said with a smile that was probably supposed to be reassuring. Can I start you with something to drink? Water, Logan managed. Please. He sat down, facing the entrance, and tried to remember how to breathe normally. What was he doing here? This was insane. He should leave, text Victoria some excuse, go back to his safe, numb existence. Victoria walked through the door, and every thought in Logan's head evaporated. She wasn't wearing her usual severe suits. Tonight she wore a simple black dress that somehow made her look younger and more vulnerable. Her hair was down, falling past her shoulders in dark waves. She looked like someone who might actually laugh, who might actually be human underneath the CEO exterior. Their eyes met across the restaurant. Victoria's expression was unreadable as she walked toward him. Logan stood up awkwardly, nearly knocking over his water glass. Hi. Hi. Victoria sat down, studying him with those sharp eyes. You look nervous. I am nervous. Why? We've worked together for 18 months. This isn't work. The words came out before Logan could stop them. No, Victoria agreed. It's not. The waiter appeared, saving Logan from having to respond. They ordered wine, white for Victoria, red for him, exactly as the girls had predicted. The waiter left menus and disappeared. Silence stretched between them, awkward and loaded with everything unsaid. I have to confess something, Logan blurted out. I didn't actually... The pasta here is incredible, Victoria interrupted, looking at her menu. I've been here twice before, both times for business dinners that I couldn't wait to end. Logan's confession died in his throat. And this time? Victoria looked up and something flickered in her eyes. We'll see. She went back to studying the menu, and Logan realized with sudden clarity that she was as nervous as he was. The great Victoria Hale, billionaire CEO, who commanded boardrooms without blinking, was nervous about dinner with him. The thought was so absurd that Logan almost laughed. Almost. Can I ask you something? He said instead. You just did. But go ahead. Why did you agree to this? The email was forward. You could have just declined. Victoria set down her menu. Because it was honest, and I'm so tired of people who aren't honest with me. I'm not... Logan stopped. He'd been about to say he wasn't honest, that he was barely a real person anymore. But maybe that was exactly what she meant. You're not what? Victoria prompted. I'm not good at this, Logan admitted. At being present. My daughters would tell you I'm basically a functional ghost. You have daughters. Triplets. 8 years old. Logan pulled out his phone, showed her the photo he kept as his wallpaper, the girls at their last birthday, covered in cake, laughing at something Sarah had said. They're the ones who... He stopped himself just in time. The ones who what? Victoria leaned forward, genuinely interested. Logan's mind raced. The truth would make him sound insane. A lie would make him a coward. His daughter's voices echoed in his head. Be a person. Be honest. Try. They're the ones who are worried about me, he said carefully. They think I've been stuck since their mother died 3 years ago. The words hung in the air between them. Logan waited for Victoria to make excuses, to leave, to realize this dinner was a terrible idea. Instead, she nodded slowly. Are they right? Completely. And are you trying to get unstuck? Logan looked at Victoria, really looked at her. Saw the exhaustion behind the professional mask, the loneliness in the way she held herself apart even in a crowded restaurant. Saw someone who understood being trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt empty inside. I'm here, aren't I? He said quietly. Something shifted in Victoria's expression. Not quite a smile, but close. Yes, you are. The waiter returned and they ordered food Logan wouldn't remember later. The conversation shifted to safer topics. Work, the city, the unseasonably warm weather. But underneath it all ran a current of something else. Something neither of them was ready to name, but both could feel. Tell me about your daughters, Victoria said over pasta that probably tasted amazing if Logan had been paying attention to anything except the woman across from him. What are they like? Logan hesitated. He never talked about the girls. Never let anyone see that part of his life because it was too raw, too real. But Victoria waited, patient and genuinely curious, and Logan found himself talking. Emma is terrifying, he started, and surprised himself by almost smiling. She's brilliant and ruthless and absolutely refuses to let anything go. Sophia is the creative one. She sees patterns everywhere, makes connections nobody else would think of. And Lily, his voice softened. Lily is the heart. She holds us all together even when we're falling apart. They sound incredible. They are. They're better than I deserve. Victoria's eyes sharpened. Don't do that. Do what? Diminish yourself. I've watched you work for 18 months, Hayes. You're smart, dedicated, and you care about quality in a way most people don't. Stop acting like you're not worth knowing. The words hit Logan like a physical blow. He set down his fork, unable to eat. My wife used to say something similar, he admitted. She'd tell me I was too hard on myself, that I needed to see what she saw. And what did she see? Logan looked at Victoria, this woman he barely knew, but who somehow saw right through him. I'm not sure anymore. That version of me died with her. Or maybe, Victoria said gently, he's just been sleeping, waiting for a reason to wake up. The restaurant noise faded into background. Logan felt exposed, vulnerable in a way he hadn't allowed himself to be in 3 years. Every instinct screamed at him to shut down, to retreat, to go back to being numb. But his daughter's faces flashed through his mind. Their desperate hope, their elaborate plan, their belief that he could still be someone worth knowing. I'm not good at this, Logan said again, at being open, at letting people in. Neither am I, Victoria admitted. Do you know how many genuine conversations I've had in the past year? Conversations where someone wanted to know me, not my money or my connections or what I could do for them? How many? Including this one? 1. They looked at each other across the table, 2 broken people pretending to be whole, and something clicked into place. This is the weirdest first date I've ever been on, Logan said before he could stop himself. Victoria's laugh surprised them both, genuine and unguarded. Is that what this is? I have no idea what this is, Logan admitted. My daughters orchestrated it like a military operation. I'm pretty sure they have contingency plans if things go wrong. Smart girls. Terrifying girls. Both can be true. Victoria leaned back, studying him. So what do we do now? Logan thought about it, about his empty house and his hollow routine, and the 3 little girls who loved him enough to stage an intervention. We could try being honest, he suggested. No games, no pretending to be okay when we're not. Just 2 people figuring it out. Figuring what out? How to be alive again. Victoria was quiet for a long moment, then she raised her wine glass. To figuring it out. Logan clinked his glass against hers, and for the first time in 3 years, he felt something other than numbness. It wasn't happiness, not yet, but it was possibility, a crack in the ice, a reason to try. They talked until the restaurant started closing around them, until the waiter had hinted 3 times that they needed the table. They talked about work and loneliness and the weight of expectations. They talked about loss and fear and the strange courage it took to just show up. And when Logan finally walked Victoria to her car, when she turned to face him in the parking lot with the city lights reflecting in her eyes, he didn't kiss her. That would have been too much, too fast. Instead, he said, "Thank you." For what? For being honest, for staying, for not running away when you realized what a mess I am. Victoria smiled, a real smile that transformed her entire face. "Logan, we're all a mess. Some of us are just better at hiding it than others." She got in her car and drove away, leaving Logan standing alone in the parking lot, feeling more awake than he had in years. His phone buzzed, a text from Emma. "Did you survive?" Logan smiled, and typed back, "Barely. Come downstairs, we need to talk." He drove home with the windows down, letting the night air fill his lungs. The house lights were on when he pulled into the driveway. 3 small faces appeared in the upstairs window, watching. Logan walked inside to find his daughters sitting on the stairs in their pajamas, trying very hard to look like they hadn't been waiting up. "So?" Emma demanded immediately. Logan sat down on his bottom step and looked at the 3 people who had refused to let him disappear. "You 3 are absolutely grounded," he said. "What you did was invasive and manipulative and completely inappropriate." Their faces fell. "And," Logan continued, his voice softer, "it worked. I don't know what happens next, but something happened tonight, something real, because you believed I could still be someone worth knowing." The girls launched themselves at him, a tangle of arms and joy and relief. Logan held them, really held them, and felt tears running down his face for the first time since Sarah's funeral. "We love you, Dad," Lily whispered. "I love you too," Logan said. "I'm sorry I forgot how to show it." "You're showing it now," Sophia said into his shoulder. They sat there on the stairs, a broken family trying to piece itself back together. And for the first time in 3 years, Logan believed they actually might. The road ahead would be complicated. Victoria was his boss, his daughters were too young to be playing matchmaker, and he was still a disaster of a human being learning how to feel again. But tonight, sitting on these stairs with his girls, Logan Hayes took the first real breath he'd taken in 3 years. And it felt like coming home. Monday morning arrived with the kind of anxiety that made Logan's coffee taste like acid. He stood outside the elevator on the 62nd floor, staring at the polished doors that led to the executive wing of Hale Industries. His new office was somewhere beyond those doors. His new life apparently waited on the other side. The promotion hadn't been a dream. The dinner hadn't been a dream. And now he had to face Victoria as both his boss and the woman who'd seen him cry over pasta about his dead wife. "You going in, or you planning to set up camp out here?" A woman's voice came from behind him. Logan turned to find a short woman in her 50s holding 2 coffee cups and wearing an expression that suggested she'd seen everything twice and wasn't impressed either time. "I'm going in," Logan said. "Good. I'm Margaret, Victoria's executive assistant. You must be Hayes." She handed him one of the coffee cups. "Black, 2 sugars. That's how you take it, right?" "How did you—" "I know everything." Margaret pressed the elevator button. "It's literally my job. Your office is 3 doors down from Victoria's. I sent you an email with your schedule. You have meetings from 9 to noon. Lunch is blocked for you to actually eat instead of hiding in your car. And Victoria wants to see you at 2. Logan's stomach dropped. "About what?" "If I told you that, the meeting would be pointless." Margaret gave him a look that might have been sympathy. "Relax, Hayes. You're not getting fired. You just got promoted." The elevator doors opened to reveal a floor that looked nothing like the cubicle farm Logan had left behind. Floor-to-ceiling windows, actual artwork on the walls, offices instead of cubicles. Everything whispered money and power in a way that made Logan feel like an imposter. "This is you." Margaret stopped at an office that was bigger than his entire downstairs. "Computers set up, passwords are in the envelope on your desk. Don't break anything expensive." She left before Logan could respond. He stepped into the office slowly, half expecting someone to stop him and explain there'd been a mistake. But the nameplate on the door said Logan Hayes, Senior Analytics Director, and the view from the window showed half the city spread out below like a promise. His phone buzzed, a text from Emma. "First day as an executive, don't forget to be nice to people," followed immediately by Sophia. "Also don't let them see you're terrified. Fake it till you make it." And Lily, "We're proud of you, Dad. You've got this." Logan smiled despite the knot in his stomach. His daughters had been different since Thursday night, more present, more talkative, as if watching their father take one small step toward being human again had given them permission to hope. He'd told them almost nothing about the dinner except that it went well and Victoria didn't hate him. They'd asked approximately 7,000 questions, which he'd deflected with varying degrees of success, but they'd seen the change in him, the way he actually looked at them during breakfast now, the way he'd laughed at Sophia's terrible joke about a chicken crossing the road. Small things. But apparently, small things mattered. His office phone rang, making him jump. He stared at it for 3 rings before remembering he was supposed to answer. "Hayes? Conference room A in 5 minutes, Margaret's voice came through. "And fix your tie. It's crooked." Logan looked down. His tie was indeed crooked. He fixed it and headed for the conference room, wondering if Margaret had cameras everywhere or just possessed supernatural observation skills. The conference room held 8 people, all of whom stopped talking when Logan entered. He recognized 2 from the analytics division. The others were strangers wearing expensive suits and expressions of mild curiosity. "Hayes, good." Thomas Chen, the CFO, gestured to an empty chair. "We're discussing the Q4 projections. Victoria says you're the numbers genius, so we need your brain." Logan sat down, acutely aware that everyone was watching him. The old Logan, the one from before Sarah died, would have cracked a joke to break the tension. This Logan just opened his laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet Margaret had apparently already loaded for him. They spent 2 hours dissecting financial projections, and Logan forgot to be nervous. Numbers made sense. Numbers didn't require him to be charming or functional or anything except accurate. He caught 3 errors in the European division's calculations and suggested a different approach to the Asian market that made Thomas Chen actually smile. "See," Thomas said as the meeting ended, "this is why Victoria wanted you up here. You actually think instead of just regurgitating whatever consulting firm we paid too much money." "The consulting firm charged us $2 million, one of the strangers said dryly. "I hope he's better than regurgitating." Logan gathered his things and escaped before anyone could ask him to be social. He made it back to his office and closed the door, leaning against it and trying to remember how to breathe normally. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "You did well in the meeting. Chen's impressed." Logan stared at the message. Victoria had texted him. From her personal phone, apparently, since it wasn't the number listed in the company directory. Which meant she'd gotten his personal number from somewhere and saved it, and was texting him like they were, what, friends, colleagues, whatever complicated thing they'd become over Italian food. He typed back, "How do you know how I did?" Her response came immediately. "Chen texted me. Also, I trust his judgment." Logan hesitated, then wrote, "Thank you for the promotion, even if it's terrifying." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "You'll be fine. And if you're not, I'll tell you." Something warm settled in Logan's chest. He pocketed his phone and tried to focus on the emails piling up in his inbox, but his mind kept drifting to Thursday night. The way Victoria had looked at him across the table. The way she'd listened without judgment when he'd talked about Sarah. The way she'd laughed, really laughed, at his awkward comment about weird first dates. He was in trouble. Deep, complicated, possibly career-ending trouble. A knock on his door interrupted his spiral. Margaret poked her head in. "Lunch," she announced. "There's a cafeteria on 58, or you can order delivery. Either way, you're eating something because Victoria says you look like you're about to pass out." Victoria said that. She notices everything. Margaret's expression softened slightly. "Eat, Hayes. The afternoon meetings are worse than the morning ones." She was right. Logan spent the afternoon in back-to-back meetings about budgets and forecasts and strategic initiatives that made his head spin. By the time 2 o'clock arrived, he felt like he'd run a marathon while doing calculus. Victoria's office was at the end of the hall, behind double doors that probably cost more than Logan's car. He knocked, half hoping she wasn't there. "Come in." Logan pushed open the doors and stopped. Victoria's office was massive, all windows and minimalist furniture, and a view that made his look pedestrian. But what caught his attention was Victoria herself, sitting behind her desk with her hair falling out of its usual severe style, looking exhausted in a way that made her seem younger and more human. "Close the door," she said without looking up from her computer. Logan obeyed. "You wanted to see me. Sit." Victoria finally looked at him, and Logan saw the same wariness in her eyes that he felt in his chest. "We need to talk about Thursday." Logan's stomach dropped. "Okay. That can't happen again." Victoria's voice was firm, professional. "Not while you work for me. Not while I'm your direct supervisor. The optics alone would be—" "I understand," Logan interrupted. "I wasn't expecting anything to—" "Let me finish." Victoria stood up and walked to the window, her back to him. "That can't happen again because if it does, I'm going to want it to keep happening. And that's a problem." The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. "I don't do relationships," Victoria continued, still facing the window. "I don't have time, I don't have energy, and I definitely don't have the emotional bandwidth to care about another person when I'm barely keeping myself together." "Then why are we having this conversation?" Logan asked quietly. Victoria turned to face him, and the vulnerability in her expression hit him like a punch. "Because Thursday was the first time in 2 years I've felt like a person instead of a position, and I can't decide if that's wonderful or terrifying." Logan stood up slowly, closing some of the distance between them, but not all of it. "It can be both. That's not helpful." "I'm not trying to be helpful. I'm trying to be honest." Logan ran his hand through his hair. "You want honesty? I'm a mess. My daughters had to catfish my boss to get me to have dinner with another human being. I spent 3 years being a ghost in my own life. I have no idea how to do any of this." "Then maybe we're perfectly matched," Victoria said, and despite everything, she smiled. Two disasters pretending to be functional adults. "I think that's called dating in your 30s. Victoria's laugh was surprised and genuine. "Is that what we're doing? Dating?" "I have no idea what we're doing." Logan took another step closer. "But my daughters think you're the key to me being less of a ghost, and you just admitted I make you feel human, so maybe we're doing something. Something that violates about 6 company policies. Probably more." Victoria studied him, and Logan could see her mind working through scenarios and consequences. Finally, she shook her head. "This is a terrible idea." "Completely terrible," Logan agreed. "I could lose credibility. You could face harassment. The board would have opinions." "Lots of opinions. And your daughters are 8. This could confuse them." "They orchestrated the whole thing. I think confusion is their baseline." Victoria's expression softened. "You really love them, don't you? Even when they're terrifying?" "Especially when they're terrifying." Logan's voice went quiet. "They're the only thing that kept me breathing the last 3 years. I owe them everything." "Then we should probably not screw this up." "Probably not." They stood there 2 feet apart, both aware they were walking into something complicated and potentially destructive. Victoria's phone buzzed on her desk. Then Logan's buzzed in his pocket. The world kept spinning, demanding their attention, reminding them they had jobs and responsibilities and lives that didn't leave room for messy feelings. "I need you to do something for me," Victoria said finally. "What?" "Be excellent at this job. Not good, excellent. Because when people start asking questions, and they will, I need to be able to point at your work and show them you earned this position." Logan nodded. "I can do that." "And I need you to tell me if this gets too complicated. If it affects your kids, if it affects your work, if it affects anything important." Victoria's eyes were fierce. "I won't be the reason you fall apart again, Logan. I won't be another loss in your life." The words hit harder than they should have. Logan swallowed against the sudden tightness in his throat. "And what about you? What happens when this gets complicated for you?" "Then I'll tell you." Victoria moved closer, close enough that Logan could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that made his head spin. "We're adults. We can use our words." "Can we?" Logan asked. "Because I'm pretty sure we're both excellent at hiding how we actually feel." "Then we'll have to learn together." Victoria's hand brushed against his, barely touching, and Logan felt electricity shoot up his arm. This close, he could see the faint shadows under her eyes, the tiny lines of stress around her mouth. She was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with her clothes or her money and everything to do with the fierce intelligence behind her gaze. "I should go," Logan said, not moving. "You should," Victoria agreed, not stepping back. They stood there for another heartbeat, suspended in possibility. Then Logan's phone rang, shattering the moment. He pulled it out and saw the school's number on the screen. "I have to take this," he said, already answering. "Hello? Mr. Hayes, this is Principal Morrison. I'm calling about Emma." Logan's entire body went cold. "What happened? Is she hurt?" No, she's fine physically, but there's been an incident. Can you come to the school? I'm on my way." Logan hung up and looked at Victoria. "I have to go. Emma, something happened at school." "Go." Victoria was already moving toward her desk. "Margaret will clear your schedule. Let me know if you need anything." Logan was halfway to the door when Victoria called his name. He turned back. "Your daughters are lucky to have you," she said quietly. "Don't forget that." Logan nodded, unable to speak past the fear lodging in his throat, and ran. The drive to the elementary school took 15 minutes that felt like hours. Logan's mind cycled through every possible disaster: bullies, accidents, illness. Emma was the strong one, the leader, the one who held her sisters together. If something had shaken her enough for the principal to call, he parked haphazardly and ran into the building. The secretary directed him to the principal's office, where he found Emma sitting in a chair that was too big for her, looking small in a way that broke his heart. "Dad!" She launched herself at him, and Logan caught her, feeling her shake against his chest. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Logan looked at Principal Morrison over Emma's head. What happened? Principal Morrison was a stern woman in her 60s who'd seen everything twice. Right now, she looked tired. Emma had an altercation with another student. The other child said some unkind things about Emma's family situation, and Emma responded physically. Logan's stomach sank. Physically? How? She punched Michael Gardner in the nose. It's not broken, but there was blood. A lot of blood. "Emma," Logan pulled back to look at his daughter. "You hit another kid?" Emma's jaw set stubbornly, but tears streamed down her face. "He said Mom left us because we weren't good enough. He said we're broken and pathetic, and Dad's too useless to even date anyone." The words hit Logan like physical blows. He looked at Principal Morrison. "What exactly did this child say?" "Michael's version differs from Emma's," Morrison said carefully, "but several witnesses confirm he did make comments about Emma's mother and family." "And what's happening to Michael?" "He's being disciplined according to school policy." "That's not what I asked." Logan's voice went hard. "My daughter is sitting here after defending her family from a child who mocked her dead mother. What consequences is that child facing?" Morrison's expression tightened. "Mr. Hayes, I understand you're upset, but Emma used violence after being verbally attacked about her trauma." Logan stood up, keeping Emma close. "I'm not excusing what she did, but if you're punishing her without equally punishing the kid who triggered it, we're going to have a problem." "Both children are receiving consequences," Morrison said. "Emma is suspended for 2 days. Michael is suspended for 3. Emma made a small sound against Logan's chest. Suspension. His daughter had never been in trouble at school, and now she was being suspended. "Can I speak with my daughter privately?" Logan asked, his voice tight. Morrison nodded and left the office. Logan sat down in her chair and pulled Emma onto his lap, the way he used to when she was smaller and the world made sense. "Talk to me," he said quietly. "He wouldn't stop," Emma whispered. "He kept saying Mom didn't love us enough to stay, that we're broken, that you're so sad all the time because you wish you could leave too." Logan closed his eyes, feeling each word like a blade. "And you hit him. I told him to stop first 3 times, but he just laughed and kept going, and Sophia and Lily were crying, and I couldn't let him say those things." "Where are your sisters?" "In class. The teacher took them back after. Logan held his daughter tighter. "Emma, listen to me. What that boy said was cruel and wrong, but hitting him wasn't the answer. What was I supposed to do?" Emma pulled back, her face fierce through the tears. "Just let him say those things? Let him hurt us and do nothing? You could have told a teacher." "Teachers don't always help, Dad. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself." Logan looked at his 8-year-old daughter, Brilliant, fierce, damaged Emma, who just tried to protect her family the only way she knew how. And he saw himself reflected back, the man who'd shut down instead of fighting, who'd chosen numbness over pain, who'd taught his daughters by example that sometimes it was easier to disappear. "You're right," he said quietly. Emma blinked. "What?" "You're right. Teachers don't always help. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself and the people you love." Logan cupped her face gently. "But Em, there are different ways to fight. Ways that don't get you suspended. Ways that don't give bullies power over you." "Like what?" "Like using your words to cut deeper than fists ever could. Like being so confident in who you are that their insults can't touch you. Like building a life so good that their meanness can't reach it." Logan paused. "Like what you did Thursday night." Emma's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "You saw a problem, me being stuck. You could have yelled at me, punched walls, made a scene. Instead, you planned. You strategized. You used your brain to fight for what mattered." Logan smiled despite everything. "That took more courage than hitting Michael Gardner ever could." "But he said—" "I know what he said, and it hurt because some of it was true." Logan forced himself to meet his daughter's eyes. "I was useless. I was so lost in my grief that I forgot you three were grieving too. I let you down." "You didn't." "I did. But I'm trying now. Partly because you three scared me straight with your insane email plan, and partly because I finally realized your mother would be furious if she knew I'd given up." Logan brushed tears off Emma's cheeks. "We're not broken, Em. We're healing. There's a difference." Emma threw her arms around his neck and sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs that had been building for 3 years. Logan held her and let her cry, his own tears soaking into her hair. "I miss her so much," Emma whispered. "Every single day." "Me too, baby. Me too." They sat there until Emma's tears slowed. Finally, she pulled back and wiped her eyes. "Are you mad about the suspension?" "Furious," Logan said, "but not at you, at the situation. At Michael Gardner's parents for raising a kid who thinks cruelty is acceptable. At myself for not teaching you better ways to handle this." "What happens now?" "Now we go home. You are suspended for 2 days, which means you and I are going to have some long talks about fighting and grief and how to handle bullies without becoming one yourself." "Are you going to punish me?" Logan thought about it. "Yeah, you're going to write Michael Gardner an apology for hitting him." "What?" "But he—" "Not for defending your family, for using violence, because that's the part you actually need to own." Logan stood up, setting Emma on her feet. "And Michael is going to write you an apology for what he said, or I'm going to Principal Morrison's boss." Emma almost smiled. "You're being scary, Dad." "I'm being parent, Dad." "There's a difference." Logan took her hand. "Come on, let's collect your sisters and go home." They found Sophia and Lily waiting in the hallway with their backpacks, both looking terrified. The moment they saw Emma, they rushed over. "Are you okay?" Lily asked. "Did they arrest you?" Sophia's eyes were huge. "Nobody got arrested," Logan said, "but Emma's suspended for 2 days and we all need to have a family meeting." The drive home was quiet. Logan kept glancing in the rearview mirror at his daughters, who sat in their usual formation. Emma in the middle, Sophia and Lily on either side like bookends. They looked so small and so resilient at the same time. His phone buzzed at a red light. A text from Victoria. "Everything okay?" Logan typed back one-handed. Emma punched a kid who said cruel things about Sarah. "She's suspended. We're handling it." Victoria's response came before the light changed. "That's my girl. The punching part needs work, but defending her family? Tell her she's got CEO potential." Despite everything, Logan smiled. He showed Emma the text when they got home. She read it twice, then handed the phone back. "Miss Victoria thinks I have CEO potential." "Apparently violence translates to leadership in the business world," Logan said dryly. "Don't tell your teachers I said that." The family meeting happened at the kitchen table over grilled cheese sandwiches that Logan only burned slightly. He explained the suspension, the apology Emma would write, and the consequences they'd all agreed on. No TV for a week, extra chores, and Emma had to research 3 famous people who'd used nonviolent resistance to create change. "But he started it," Sophia protested. "And Emma ended it by getting suspended," Logan countered. "Actions have consequences, even when those actions come from the right place." Life's not fair, Lily said quietly. Logan looked at his youngest daughter, wise beyond her years. No, it's not. But we still have to live in it, and we have to be better than the people who hurt us. Is that why you went to dinner with Miss Victoria? Emma asked suddenly. To be better than the person who was just sad all the time? The question caught Logan off guard. His daughters watched him, waiting for an answer that mattered. Yeah, he said finally. That's exactly why. Because you three deserved better than a ghost for a father, and because your mom would have kicked my butt if she knew I'd stopped trying. Mom was scary when she was mad, Sophia said with a small smile. Terrifying, Logan agreed. Wonder where you three get it. That night, after the girls were in bed, Logan sat in his home office and stared at his laptop. He should write up reports for tomorrow's meetings. He should review the projections Thomas Chen had sent over. He should do 100 work things that didn't involve thinking about his daughter punching a kid or the way Victoria had looked at him in her office. Instead, he opened a new document and started writing. Not a report, not an analysis, just words. Dear Sarah, he typed, then stopped. He hadn't written to her since the funeral, hadn't let himself think of her as someone he could still talk to instead of someone he'd lost. But tonight, with Emma's tears still echoing in his ears and Victoria's text still warm in his pocket, Logan needed his wife's clarity. Emma punched a kid today, he wrote. Defended the family with her fists because some little jerk said you left us on purpose. She's suspended. I'm simultaneously proud and horrified, which I think is peak parenting. The words flowed easier than he expected. He told Sarah about the promotion, about the dinner, about the 3 matchmaking daughters who'd refused to let him fade away. He told her about Victoria, the loneliness behind the power, the way she understood without needing explanations, the terrifying possibility of feeling something again. I don't know what I'm doing, he wrote, but I'm doing something, which is more than I've managed in 3 years. The girls are watching me try to be human again, and maybe that's enough. Maybe trying is all any of us can do. He saved the document and closed his laptop, feeling lighter than he had in years. Tomorrow, he'd deal with work and suspensions and complicated feelings about his boss. Tonight, he'd just breathe. His phone buzzed one more time. Victoria. Thank you for trusting me with what happened today. Your daughter sounds exactly like someone who'd plan an elaborate email scheme. I like her already. Logan smiled in the darkness of his office and typed back, She'd like you too. Fair warning, all 3 of them are planning our wedding. I've seen the Pinterest boards. Victoria's response made him laugh out loud. Tell them I require at least 3 months' notice and a detailed budget proposal. Standards must be maintained. Logan went to bed still smiling, and for the first time in 3 years, he didn't dream about loss. He dreamed about possibility. Emma's suspension turned into an unexpected gift, though Logan would never admit that out loud. 2 days home with his daughter meant 2 days of actually talking, real conversations that went deeper than how was school and eat your vegetables. They sat at the kitchen table while Sophia and Lily were at class, and Emma worked on her apology letter with the intensity she brought to everything. How do I say I'm sorry for hitting him without saying I'm sorry for defending us? She asked, chewing on her pencil. Logan looked up from his laptop where he was trying to work remotely and failing. You separate the action from the intention. You can regret the method without regretting the reason. Emma stared at him. That sounds like something Miss Victoria would say. She probably would say it better. Logan closed his laptop, accepting that work wasn't happening today. But the point stands. You can write, I'm sorry I hit you. That was wrong, and I shouldn't have used violence. But I'm not sorry for defending my family when you said hurtful things about my mom. Principal Morrison won't like that second part. Principal Morrison doesn't have to like it. She just has to accept that you're owning your actual mistake without apologizing for having feelings. Logan paused. Although, maybe phrase it nicer than I just did. Emma bent over her paper, writing carefully. Logan watched her. This fierce little person who'd inherited Sarah's spine and his tendency to overthink everything. She'd been 4 when Sarah died, old enough to remember but young enough that the memories were already fading. Sometimes Logan caught her staring at photographs like she was trying to memorize a face that was slipping away. Dad? Emma didn't look up from her letter. Do you think Mom would be mad about the hitting? The question sat heavy in the quiet kitchen. Logan thought about Sarah, brilliant, passionate Sarah who'd once thrown a drink in a guy's face at a bar for groping her friend. Sarah who'd never backed down from a fight, but who'd also taught kindergarten with infinite patience. I think she'd be conflicted, Logan said honestly. Mad about the violence, proud that you stood up for your sisters, frustrated that you got caught. Emma's lips twitched. She would totally be mad I got caught. Your mother was many things, but she was not a fan of unnecessary consequences. Logan smiled at the memory. She once convinced a cop to let her off with a warning for speeding by explaining the physics of how his radar gun worked and why his reading was probably off by 3 miles per hour. Did it work? He was so confused he just told her to slow down and left. Logan's smile faded. She would have handled this whole situation better than me. She would have known exactly what to say to make you feel better without letting you off the hook. You're doing okay, Emma said quietly. You're trying. That's more than you were doing before. The observation from his 8-year-old felt like a knife and a hug at the same time. Logan reached across the table and squeezed her hand. I'm sorry I checked out on you guys. That wasn't fair. Life's not fair. You said so yourself. Emma squeezed back. But you came back. That's what matters. His phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. How's the apology letter going? Logan took a photo of Emma at the table, tongue poking out in concentration, and sent it back. She's treating it like a legal brief. Should I be worried? Victoria's response came with a laughing emoji. She's going to run the world someday. Or a criminal empire. Possibly both. Is that Miss Victoria? Emma asked without looking up. Maybe. You're smiling at your phone. It's definitely Miss Victoria. Emma finally looked up, her expression too knowing for a child. Are you dating her for real now? Or is it still weird and complicated? Logan set down his phone. How do you know about weird and complicated? Dad, I'm 8, not stupid, and I watch a lot of TV when you think I'm asleep. Emma put down her pencil. So which is it? Both. It's weird and complicated, and I don't know what we're doing. Logan ran his hand through his hair. She's my boss, which makes everything harder. And you 3 are the most important thing in my life, which makes me terrified of messing this up. You're going to mess it up, Emma said matter-of-factly. Everyone messes up relationships. That's what Aunt Rachel says when she's complaining about Uncle Mike. That's reassuring. But you can also fix it when you mess up. That's the important part. Emma returned to her letter. Miss Victoria seems like someone who would tell you when you're being stupid instead of just leaving. Logan absorbed that. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just started listening again. The words hit harder than Emma probably intended. Logan sat back in his chair watching his daughter craft an apology that took responsibility without surrendering dignity, and realized she was right. His daughters had been trying to reach him for 3 years, and he'd been too buried in grief to hear them. His laptop pinged with an email notification. Work. The real world intruding on this small bubble of father-daughter time. Logan ignored it. What if I told you I'm scared? He said suddenly. About Victoria, about messing up, about everything? Emma looked up, her dark eyes serious. I'd say being scared means you care, and caring is better than being numb. You sound like a therapist. Sophia's been watching psychology videos on YouTube. It's rubbing off. Emma grinned. But she's not wrong. You were numb for a long time, Dad. At least scared means you're feeling something. Logan's laptop pinged again. Then his phone. Then his laptop twice more in rapid succession. He grabbed his phone and saw a string of texts from Margaret. Call me. Now. Emergency. His heart stopped. I need to take this, he told Emma, already dialing. Margaret answered on the first ring. Hayes, where are you? Home with Emma. What's wrong? The Singapore deal is falling apart. The partner company found discrepancies in our financial projections and they're threatening to pull out. Victoria needs you here now. Logan looked at Emma, who was watching him with worried eyes. I can't just leave my daughter alone. Then bring her. I don't care. But Victoria's in a room with 8 lawyers and the entire Singapore team on video conference, and she specifically asked for you. Margaret's voice softened slightly. This is big, Hayes. Company defining big. Logan's mind raced. Singapore was the expansion that would make or break Hale Industries' international presence. Months of work. Millions of dollars, hundreds of jobs, all hanging in the balance. Give me 30 minutes, he said. He hung up and looked at Emma. I have to go to the office. There's a crisis. I heard. Emma stood up. What about me? Logan checked his watch. Sophia and Lily would be in school for another 4 hours. Rachel was at work. His neighbor was nice but barely knew them. He had no good options. You're coming with me, he decided. Grab your homework and your book. And maybe your tablet. This might take a while. 28 minutes later, Logan was speed-walking through the executive floor with Emma struggling to keep up. Margaret met them at the elevator, her expression grim. Conference room B. They're waiting. She looked at Emma. And who's this? My daughter, Emma. She's suspended from school for punching a bully, and I had no childcare options. Logan kept walking. Where can she wait? My office. There's a couch and guest Wi-Fi. Margaret fell into step beside them. Victoria's not in a good mood, Hayes. The partner company is claiming we manipulated data to make the Singapore market look more profitable than it is. Did we? No, but someone made errors in the projections, and now it looks intentional. Margaret stopped outside the conference room. Fix this. Logan looked down at Emma. Be good for Margaret. Don't touch anything expensive. I'll be back as soon as I can. Good luck, Dad. Emma squeezed his hand. Remember, you're smart and you know what you're doing, even when you're scared. Logan nodded, not trusting his voice, and pushed into the conference room. It was worse than he had imagined. Victoria stood at the head of the table, her face composed, but her eyes blazing with barely controlled fury. 8 lawyers lined one side of the table, all looking grim. On the massive video screen, a team of Singapore executives sat in what was clearly the middle of their night, and none of them looked happy. Hayes, Victoria's voice was clipped. Please explain to our partners why the Q3 projections show a 15% growth rate when the actual market data suggests 8%. Logan moved to the table, his mind already running through numbers. Give me access to the original files. One of the lawyers pushed a laptop toward him. Logan pulled up the spreadsheet and felt his stomach drop. Someone had used the wrong calculation method for currency conversion, making the growth rate appear almost double what it should have been. It was a stupid mistake, the kind a junior analyst might make, but it had made it all the way to the partnership proposal. This is a conversion error, Logan said, highlighting the problematic cells. Whoever built this spreadsheet used nominal rates instead of real rates adjusted for inflation. The underlying data is accurate. The calculation method was wrong. So you admit to providing false information, one of the Singapore executives said, his accent crisp with anger. I admit someone made a math error. Not the same thing as falsifying data. Logan pulled up a new spreadsheet and started rebuilding the projection in real time, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Give me 10 minutes, and I'll show you the accurate numbers using the correct methodology. We don't have 10 minutes, another Singapore executive said. We have other partners interested in this market. Partners who don't make math errors with 8-figure investments. Victoria's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed level. Mr. Hayes is our senior analytics director. If he says he can fix this, he can fix it. 10 minutes. The room fell silent except for the clicking of Logan's keyboard. He was aware of everyone watching him. The lawyers, Victoria, the Singapore team on screen. The pressure should have paralyzed him. 6 months ago, it would have. But something had shifted. Maybe it was Emma's fierce defense of her family. Maybe it was Victoria's faith in his abilities. Maybe it was just that he'd been numb for so long that even stress felt like being alive. He rebuilt the entire projection from scratch, using real exchange rates, proper inflation adjustments, and conservative growth estimates. The numbers came out to 8.7% growth, still strong, still profitable, just not the inflated figures someone had accidentally created. Done. Logan turned to the laptop so the camera could see. Here's the accurate projection. 8.7% growth, accounting for all market variables and using standard international accounting practices. The Singapore market is still highly profitable. We just overcalculated the rate of return. One of the Singapore executives leaned forward, studying the numbers. This is significantly different from what we were presented. Because what you were presented was wrong, Logan said bluntly. Not fraudulent, just wrong. Someone used the wrong formula, and it should have been caught in review. That's on us. But the fundamental opportunity hasn't changed. Singapore is still a strong market with solid growth potential. The Singapore team conferred in Mandarin. Logan couldn't understand the words, but he understood the tone, skeptical, cautious, not quite convinced. Victoria stepped forward. Gentlemen, I understand your concern. Someone on my team made an error that affected our proposal, and that's unacceptable. But Mr. Hayes just rebuilt these projections in front of you, using transparent methodology you can verify. We're not hiding anything, we're correcting a mistake. How do we know there aren't other mistakes? The lead executive asked. Because I'm personally going to review every number in this proposal before we proceed, Victoria said, along with Mr. Hayes and an independent auditor of your choosing. Complete transparency. If you find any other errors or inconsistencies, you can walk away with no penalty. The Singapore team conferred again, longer this time. Logan watched Victoria's face, calm on the surface, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, the slight tremor in her hand she was hiding by gripping the table. Finally, the lead executive spoke. We'll need the complete corrected proposal within 48 hours, with the independent audit, and we're reducing our initial investment by 20% until we see proof of the projected returns. It wasn't ideal, but it wasn't disaster. Victoria nodded. Acceptable. You'll have everything within 48 hours. The video call ended. The lawyers started gathering their materials, already discussing audit firms. Victoria dismissed them all with a wave, and suddenly the room was empty except for her and Logan. The silence was deafening. Who made the error? Logan asked quietly. Marcus Chen, Thomas's nephew, fresh out of business school and clearly didn't understand basic currency conversion. Victoria's voice was tight with controlled rage. He's already been removed from the project. That's not enough. No, it's not. But firing the CFO's nephew on day one of a crisis would create more problems than it solves. Victoria finally looked at Logan, and he saw exhaustion behind the anger. Thank you for fixing this. That's my job. No, your job is data analysis. Saving a multi-million-dollar deal in 10 minutes while the entire partnership watches is something else entirely. Victoria moved to the window, staring out at the city. I promoted you because you're brilliant with numbers. I didn't realize you could also perform under that kind of pressure. Logan joined her at the window. I had good motivation. My 8-year-old daughter is in Margaret's office, and I really didn't want to explain to her that I failed at the new job. Victoria's laugh was surprised and genuine. Emma's here? She's suspended, remember? And I had no one else to watch her. Logan checked his watch. I should probably go collect her before she convinces Margaret to let her reorganize your filing system. Actually, I want to meet her. Victoria was already heading for the door. If I'm going to be subjected to Pinterest wedding boards, I should at least meet the mastermind. Logan followed, his heart doing something complicated in his chest. You don't have to... Hayes, I just survived a catastrophic meeting by the skin of my teeth. I need to meet someone who thinks punching bullies is a reasonable solution to life's problems. It'll make me feel better about my own questionable decisions. They found Emma in Margaret's office, sitting on the couch with her homework spread across the coffee table. But she wasn't doing homework. She was in deep conversation with Margaret, who was showing her something on her computer. And this is how you flag emails for priority follow-up, Margaret was saying. Color coding is essential. Red for urgent, yellow for important but not time-sensitive, green for long-term projects. Emma was taking notes, actual notes, in a little notebook Logan had never seen before. What's happening here? Logan asked. Both Emma and Margaret looked up, completely unrepentant. Miss Margaret is teaching me executive assistant skills, Emma announced. Did you know she manages Victoria's entire schedule and screens all her calls and basically runs the whole company behind the scenes? I'm aware Margaret is terrifyingly competent, Logan said. That's not the same as you learning her job. Why not? I might want to be an executive assistant someday, or a CEO. I haven't decided yet. Emma finally noticed Victoria standing behind Logan. Her eyes went wide. Oh, hi, Miss Victoria. Hi, Emma. Victoria moved into the room, and Logan saw her professional mask slip slightly, revealing something softer underneath. I hear you're suspended for defending your family. Emma's chin came up. I wrote an apology letter for the hitting part, not for the defending part. Good. Never apologize for protecting the people you love. Victoria sat down on the couch next to Emma, completely ignoring every rule about professional distance. Although maybe next time use words instead of fists. Words can cut deeper. That's what Dad said. Your dad is smart. Victoria glanced at Logan, something warm in her eyes. He just saved my company about 40 minutes ago. Did he tell you that? Emma looked at Logan with pride. He did? There was a problem with some numbers, and your dad fixed it while very important people watched. It was extremely impressive. Victoria turned back to Emma. You should be proud of him. I am proud of him, Emma said. He's trying really hard to be less sad. That's even more impressive than fixing numbers. The room went very quiet. Logan felt his face heat up, torn between mortification and something that felt dangerously like hope. Victoria's expression did something complicated. Surprise, understanding, maybe recognition. You're right, Victoria said softly. That is more impressive. Margaret cleared her throat. I have approximately 17 things that need your signature, Victoria. And Hayes, you have emails piling up. Maybe Emma would like to see the executive break room? There's fancy coffee and those cookies from the bakery downstairs. It was a blatant excuse to give Logan and Victoria privacy, but Emma seemed to buy it. She gathered her homework and followed Margaret out, leaving Logan and Victoria alone in the office. Your daughter is terrifying, Victoria said. I'm aware. She's also wonderful, and she sees right through both of us. Victoria stood up, moving closer to Logan. She knows we're both disasters pretending to be functional. She's 8. She shouldn't have to know that. Maybe not, but she does, and she's rooting for us anyway. Victoria reached out and straightened Logan's tie, which didn't need straightening. I meant what I said in the conference room. You were brilliant today. I was doing my job. You were being excellent at your job. There's a difference. Victoria's hands lingered on his tie. And I need you to keep being excellent, because I'm about to ask you to do something that's going to consume your life for the next 48 hours. Logan's stomach sank. The Singapore audit. The Singapore audit. You, me, and whatever independent auditor they choose, going through every single number in that proposal with a microscope. Victoria stepped back, professional distance reasserting itself. It's going to mean long nights, probably working through the weekend. I know you have the girls. I'll make it work, Logan interrupted. This is too important. Are you sure? Because I can find someone else. Victoria. Logan waited until she met his eyes. I said I'll make it work. My sister can take the girls, or they can camp out in Margaret's office and learn executive assistant skills. But I'm not letting you do this alone. Something in Victoria's expression cracked. Why? Because you took a chance on me when I was barely functional. Because you see me as more than just a collection of data points. Because... Logan stopped, the words catching in his throat. Because I don't want to go back to being numb, and helping you means staying engaged with life. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, real and unguarded. Your daughter was right. You're trying really hard. Is it working? Ask me in 48 hours when we're both delirious from lack of sleep and swimming in spreadsheets. Victoria moved toward the door, then stopped. Bring Emma back tomorrow if you need to. Margaret seems to enjoy having a protege. Margaret is going to turn my daughter into a supervillain. Too late. Emma was already a supervillain when she hacked your email. Victoria paused in the doorway. For what it's worth, I'm glad she did. She left before Logan could respond. He stood alone in Margaret's office, his heart doing complicated things, and wondered what exactly he'd gotten himself into. The next 48 hours were brutal. Logan set up a temporary workstation in the large conference room, surrounded by printouts and laptops, and enough coffee to fuel a small army. Victoria worked across from him, both of them diving into numbers with the kind of focus that blocked out everything else. The independent auditor arrived 12 hours in, a severe woman named Dr. Patricia Wong, who'd worked for 3 major accounting firms and clearly suffered no fools. She reviewed Logan's corrected projections with ruthless precision, questioning every assumption and calculation. This inflation adjustment, Dr. Wong said at 2 a.m. on day 2. Explain your methodology. Logan walked her through it, showing his sources and reasoning. Dr. Wong nodded slowly. Acceptable. Continue. They continued. Logan's eyes burned from staring at screens. His back ached from sitting too long. He'd eaten more takeout in 2 days than he usually ate in a week, and he was pretty sure he'd forgotten what his daughters looked like. Actually, that wasn't true. Emma had shown up both days after school, doing her homework in the corner while Logan and Victoria and Dr. Wong dissected financial projections. Sophia and Lily had come once, brought by Rachel, who'd taken one look at the exhausted adults and the stern auditor and quietly removed the twins before they could ask awkward questions. But Emma had stayed. Emma always stayed, sitting quietly with her books, occasionally bringing Logan coffee or water without being asked. Once, when Dr. Wong had stepped out to make a call, Emma had walked over to the table. "You look terrible, Dad," she'd said. "Thanks for the vote of confidence. But you also look alive. Like really alive, not just going through motions." Emma had glanced at Victoria, who was passed out with her head on her arms at the far end of the table. "She looks terrible too. She's under a lot of pressure. You both are. But you're doing it together. That's different than being alone." Emma had squeezed his shoulder. "Mom would be proud of you for trying." The memory made Logan's throat tight. He blinked hard and returned to the spreadsheet in front of him. Numbers didn't make him cry. Numbers made sense. "Hayes," Victoria's voice cut through his concentration. "Look at this." Logan moved around the table to where Victoria sat, her laptop showing a complex market analysis. "What am I looking at?" The original error wasn't just a conversion mistake. Someone also used outdated market data, 6 months old instead of current. Victoria pulled up comparison charts. "The market has actually been growing faster than our corrected projection shows. We were conservative to be safe, but the real numbers are better." Logan leaned over her shoulder, studying the data. She was right. The real growth rate was somewhere between their conservative 8.7% and the inflated 15%, probably around 11%. "We need to show this to Dr. Wong," he said. "Already texted her. She's on her way back." Victoria rubbed her eyes, and Logan noticed her hands were shaking slightly. "If this holds up, we're not just correcting an error. We're actually improving the proposal." "Are you okay?" "Define okay." Victoria laughed, but it sounded brittle. "I've slept maybe 8 hours in 2 days, I've consumed my body weight in coffee, and my entire company's international expansion hangs on the opinion of a woman who makes drill sergeants look friendly." "But are you okay?" Victoria finally looked at him, and Logan saw past the exhaustion to something raw underneath. "I'm terrified. This is the biggest risk my father's company has ever taken, and I'm the one driving it. If I fail, I don't just lose money, I lose legacy." Logan pulled up a chair and sat next to her. "You're not going to fail." "You don't know that. I know you triple-checked everything. I know you brought in an independent auditor when you didn't have to. I know you're running on fumes and still showing up." Logan paused. "I know you care about getting this right, not just getting it done. That matters." "Does it?" "Because caring doesn't always equal success." "No, but not caring guarantees failure." Logan thought about the last 3 years of his life, the perfect empty routine that had kept him safe and miserable. "I spent 3 years not caring about anything except surviving. It kept me breathing, but it wasn't living." "You care so much it's probably going to give you an ulcer, but I'd rather have that than the alternative." Victoria was quiet for a moment, then she reached out and took his hand. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being here. For not giving up when this got hard. For understanding why this matters." She squeezed his hand. "For being you." Logan squeezed back, unable to speak past the emotion lodging in his throat. They sat there, hands linked, both running on empty, but somehow still upright. Dr. Wong returned and spent another 6 hours reviewing the updated data. Finally, at 4 in the morning on the third day, she closed her laptop and looked at them with something that might have been respect. "The projections are sound," she said. "Conservative, well-documented, and based on current market conditions. I'll submit my report to the Singapore partners recommending they proceed." Victoria's entire body sagged with relief. "Thank you, Dr. Wong." "Don't thank me. Thank your analyst." Dr. Wong nodded at Logan. "His work is exceptional. You should promote him." "Already did," Victoria said with a tired smile. Dr. Wong left. Logan and Victoria sat in the wreckage of the conference room. Papers everywhere, empty coffee cups littering every surface, the lingering smell of 2 days' worth of takeout. "We did it," Victoria said quietly. "You did it. I just fixed the math." "Hayes, stop diminishing your contribution. You saved this deal." Victoria stood up, swaying slightly from exhaustion. "I need to go home and sleep for approximately 18 hours. But after that, I need to take you to dinner, a real dinner, not crisis management over lukewarm Chinese food." "Is that a request or an order? Does it matter?" Victoria smiled. "Either way, you're saying yes." Logan stood up, his legs protesting. My daughters are going to be insufferable when they find out you asked me to dinner twice. Good. They deserve to be insufferable. They orchestrated this whole thing. Victoria grabbed her bag and laptop. Tell Emma she's got excellent instincts. In another 20 years, I'm hiring her. They walked out together, too tired for more words. The office was empty at this hour, just security guards and cleaning crews. Logan walked Victoria to her car, and they stood in the parking garage like exhausted soldiers after a battle. I'll text you, Victoria said. After I sleep, we'll figure out dinner. Sounds good. They stood there, neither moving. Finally, Victoria leaned up and kissed Logan's cheek, quick and soft and over before he could react. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. She got in her car and drove away, leaving Logan standing alone in the parking garage with his heart racing and his cheek tingling where her lips had been. He drove home in the pre-dawn darkness, his mind replaying the last 48 hours. The crisis, the pressure, the way he and Victoria had worked together like they'd been doing it for years instead of days. The way Emma had watched them with those knowing eyes. The way caring about something again felt like waking up after a long, dreamless sleep. The house was dark when he arrived. Logan let himself in quietly and found Emma asleep on the couch, her homework still spread out around her. She must have waited up for him. Logan scooped her up carefully, and she stirred. Dad? I'm home, baby. Let's get you to bed. Did you fix everything? Yeah, we fixed everything. Emma wrapped her arms around his neck. I knew you would. You're good at fixing things when you actually try. Logan carried his daughter upstairs, tucked her into bed next to her sleeping sisters, and stood in the doorway watching them breathe. 3 small humans who'd refused to let him disappear, who'd staged an intervention disguised as a dinner date, who'd believed he could be someone worth knowing again. His phone buzzed softly. A text from Victoria. Made it home. Thank you again. Sleep well. Logan typed back, you too. And Victoria? My daughters were right about you. Her response came quickly. Right about what? That you see me as a real person, not just my job or my grief or my mistakes. Thank you for that. Victoria's next message took longer. You are a real person, Logan. A brilliant, caring, slightly broken real person who's trying really hard. That's all any of us can be. Logan stood in the hallway of his home, looking at his sleeping daughters, and felt something shift permanently in his chest. Not healing, exactly, but something like hope, something like possibility, something like being alive. He went to bed as the sun started rising, and for the first time in 3 years, he didn't dread tomorrow. The second dinner happened on a Tuesday, which Emma declared was the most boring day for a date, but also proof that Miss Victoria doesn't care about looking perfect. Logan wasn't sure how his 8-year-old had become a relationship expert, but he didn't argue. The girls had spent an hour helping him pick out clothes, vetoing 3 shirts before settling on a dark green button-down that Lily insisted made his eyes look less sad. You look nervous, Sophia observed as Logan checked his watch for the 5th time. I am nervous. Why? You already had dinner with her once, and you just spent 48 hours straight with her fixing the Singapore thing. Emma crossed her arms. It's not like she doesn't know you're a disaster. Thanks for the pep talk. I'm just saying she's already seen you at your worst. Regular dinner should be easy. Emma paused. Unless you're planning to do something stupid like tell her you love her. That would be premature. Logan stared at his daughter. Where are you learning these things? YouTube. There are lots of relationship advice channels. Emma shrugged. Don't worry, I skipped the inappropriate parts. That's not as reassuring as you think it is. Rachel arrived to watch the girls, taking in Logan's outfit with raised eyebrows. Look at you, actually trying. I'm impressed. Don't be. I'm terrified. Good. Terror means you care. Rachel shooed him toward the door. Go, have fun. Try not to overthink everything. I'm Logan Hayes. Overthinking is literally my brand. Then find a new brand, Rachel called as he left. One that includes occasionally being happy. Logan drove to the restaurant, a small French place Victoria had suggested, quieter and more intimate than Giuseppe's. His hands were sweating on the steering wheel. This was stupid. He'd worked side by side with Victoria for 3 days straight, had seen her exhausted and stressed and human. There was no reason to be nervous about dinner, except there was. Because the Singapore crisis had been professional, even when it felt personal. This was just them, No emergency to hide behind, no spreadsheets to focus on instead of feelings. Just two people trying to figure out if whatever this was could actually work. Victoria was already there when Logan arrived, sitting at a corner table wearing a blue dress that made her look softer than her usual armor of business suits. She smiled when she saw him, and Logan felt his nervousness ratchet up another notch. "You made it," she said as he sat down. "Did you think I wouldn't? I thought you might panic and drive to Canada instead." Victoria's smile turned wry. "That's what I would have done if our positions were reversed. You don't strike me as someone who runs away from things." "Then you don't know me as well as you think." Victoria picked up her menu, not quite meeting his eyes. "I'm excellent at running. I just do it while standing still." The waiter appeared before Logan could respond, taking their drink orders and disappearing. The silence that followed felt different from their first dinner, less awkward, more weighted with everything unsaid. "The Singapore partners accepted the audit," Victoria said finally. "We're moving forward with the original timeline, minus the 20% reduction in initial investment. It's not perfect, but it's done." "That's good news." "It's survival. Good news would be if this whole thing hadn't happened." Victoria set down her menu. "I fired Marcus Chen this morning. Thomas is furious with me, but I don't care. Incompetence that costs us millions isn't acceptable, nephew or not." Logan winced. "How bad was it?" "Thomas threatened to resign. I told him to go ahead, we'd survive without him too." Victoria's jaw was tight. "My father built this company on accountability. I'm not going to compromise that because someone's feelings got hurt." "Your father would be proud. My father would have handled it better. He knew how to be ruthless without making enemies." Victoria's expression went distant. "I just make enemies and hope the company survives long enough for it not to matter." The waiter returned with wine. They ordered food Logan wouldn't remember later, and then they were alone again with nothing to hide behind. "Can I ask you something?" Logan said. "You're going to anyway." "Why me? You could have anyone, someone without 3 kids and a mountain of grief and the emotional capacity of a confused teenager." Victoria took a long sip of wine before answering. "You want the honest answer or the polite one?" "Honest. Because you're the first person in years who's looked at me and seen a person instead of a checkbook. Because you don't want anything from me except honesty. Because your daughter staged an elaborate scheme to save you, and that kind of love is—" Victoria's voice caught. "That's real. That's the kind of thing I've never had." Logan felt his chest tighten. "You have a whole company full of people who work for me, who need things from me, who see Victoria Hale, CEO, not Victoria who's terrified she's going to destroy everything her father built." Victoria met his eyes. "You see both. Even when I'm trying to hide the second part, you see it anyway." "Is that good or bad?" "I have no idea. Probably both." Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Your turn." "Why me? You could have stayed numb and safe. Why risk this?" Logan thought about the question, really thought about it. "Because my daughters refuse to let me fade away. And because you feel like someone who gets what it's like to be drowning while everyone assumes you're swimming." "That's darker than I expected." "You asked for honest." Logan paused. "Also because when you laugh, really laugh, not the polite CEO laugh, it's the best sound I've heard in 3 years." Victoria's expression did something complicated. "Hayes, you can't just say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes me want to believe this could actually work. And wanting things is dangerous. So is being numb. Trust me, I have extensive experience." Logan leaned forward. "What if we both just try, messily, imperfectly, with no guarantees it won't explode?" "That's a terrible pitch. I'm a data analyst, not a salesman." Victoria laughed. The real laugh he'd mentioned, surprised and unguarded. "You're also apparently insane, but I like it." "Is that a yes to trying?" "It's a yes to something. I'll figure out what later." Victoria's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. "Oh no." "What?" She turned the phone so Logan could see. An email from someone named Jennifer Tate with the subject line, "Interesting development." Logan scanned the email and felt his stomach drop. Jennifer Tate was apparently a business reporter for the city's largest newspaper, and she'd somehow gotten information about Logan's promotion, his relationship with Victoria, and was asking for comment on whether Logan had been promoted due to merit or other factors. "How did she find out?" Logan asked, his voice tight. Someone talked. Someone always talks. Victoria's hands were shaking slightly as she took back her phone. This is bad, Logan. The optics are terrible. Newly promoted employee dating the CEO? Even though our relationship started after your promotion, even though you earned that position, it doesn't matter. The story writes itself. Logan's mind raced through scenarios. His daughters finding out their father was in the news for dating his boss. His colleagues assuming he'd slept his way into a promotion. Victoria's credibility being questioned because she couldn't keep her personal and professional lives separate. I'll resign, he said quietly. What? No. If I'm not working for you, there's no story. Just two people dating. Logan's jaw set. I can find another job. I can't find another... He stopped, the words catching in his throat. Another what? Victoria's voice was soft. Another you. Another person who makes me feel like being alive might actually be worth the effort. Victoria closed her eyes, and Logan saw tears threatening to spill over. You're not resigning. I won't let you sacrifice your career for this. Then what do? We face it, together. Victoria opened her eyes, and Logan saw steel behind the tears. We tell the truth, that we started seeing each other after your promotion, that your work speaks for itself, that our personal relationship doesn't affect our professional judgment. And if people don't believe us, then they don't believe us. But I'm not letting them dictate my life. Victoria reached across the table and took Logan's hand. I've spent too long being careful, being perfect, being exactly what everyone expects. Maybe it's time to stop. Logan squeezed her hand, feeling the tremor in her fingers. Your board is going to have opinions. The board always has opinions. That's their job. Victoria's smile was brittle. Let them try to force me out. I own 42% of this company. They can't touch me. They can make your life miserable. They already do. Victoria pulled her hand back and picked up her phone. I'm responding to this email tonight. Full transparency. Complete honesty. And then tomorrow we're calling a press conference. Victoria, wait. No more waiting. No more hiding. Victoria was already typing, her fingers flying across the screen with furious determination. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. Out in the open, no apologies. Logan watched her compose the email, saw the fierce concentration on her face, and realized this was who Victoria Hale really was underneath the CEO exterior. Not someone who ran from fights, but someone who ran straight into them with her eyes open. What can I do? He asked. Be ready for this to get ugly, because it will. Victoria hit send and set down her phone. Your daughters are going to hear things at school. Your colleagues are going to whisper. The internet is going to have opinions about everything from your qualifications to my judgment to what this means for feminism. That escalated quickly. Welcome to being semi-public figures. Victoria's laugh was sharp. I'm sorry, Logan. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. You didn't drag me anywhere. I walked in with my eyes open. Logan paused. Well, my daughters pushed me, but I stayed willingly. That surprised another real laugh out of Victoria. Your daughters are going to love this. They orchestrated a relationship that made the news. They're going to be insufferable. They've earned it. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. They talked strategy, potential responses, worst-case scenarios. The food arrived and they ate mechanically, both too stressed to taste anything. Other diners glanced their way occasionally, and Logan wondered if any of them recognized Victoria, if the news was already spreading through social media and business circles. As they left the restaurant, Victoria's phone rang. She looked at the screen and sighed. It's my board chairman. I have to take this. I'll wait in my car. Logan sat in his car watching Victoria pace the sidewalk, her free hand gesturing sharply as she argued with whoever was on the other end. Even from a distance, he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she held herself like someone bracing for a blow. His own phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Girls are asleep. How's dinner? Logan typed back. Complicated, possibly career-ending, definitely newsworthy. I'll explain later. Rachel's response was immediate. Do I need to hire you a lawyer? Maybe. I'll let you know. He looked back at Victoria, who was still arguing on the phone. This was insane. They'd been on 2 official dates and they were already dealing with media scrutiny and board politics and career implications. Any sane person would walk away. But Logan had spent 3 years being numb and safe, and it hadn't made him happy. It had barely made him functional. At least this, This messy, complicated, potentially explosive thing with Victoria made him feel alive. Victoria finally hung up and walked to his car, sliding into the passenger seat without asking. "That bad?" Logan asked. "The chairman wants an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. He's concerned about the appearance of impropriety." Victoria's voice dripped sarcasm. "Never mind that I just saved a multi-million-dollar deal using the analyst he's questioning. Never mind that my personal life is none of their business. What are you going to tell them? The truth. That you're brilliant at your job. That our relationship is personal and none of their concern. That if they try to force me to choose between competent leadership and their outdated notions of propriety, they're going to lose." Victoria turned to look at Logan. "But I need to know you're with me, because this is going to get worse before it gets better." Logan thought about his daughters, 3 little girls who'd risked everything to pull their father back from the edge, who'd believed he could be someone worth saving, who deserved to see him fight for something that mattered. "I'm with you," he said, "whatever happens." Victoria leaned across the console and kissed him, not the quick peck from the parking garage, but real and desperate and tasting like wine and fear and possibility. Logan kissed her back, his hand coming up to cup her face, feeling her tears on his fingers. When they finally pulled apart, Victoria was crying openly. "This is such a bad idea." "Terrible idea," Logan agreed. We're probably going to destroy each other's lives." "Most likely. So why does it feel right?" Logan wiped away her tears with his thumb. "Because being numb was worse. Because trying and failing is better than never trying at all. Because my dead wife would kick my butt if I ran away from this." Victoria laughed through her tears. "I wish I'd met her. Sarah sounds amazing." "She was. And she would have liked you." Logan paused. "She would have appreciated someone who makes me want to be alive again." "Hayes, you have to stop saying things like that, or I'm going to completely fall apart." "Would that be so bad?" "Yes, because I have a board meeting in 12 hours, and I need to be terrifying, not weepy." Victoria wiped her eyes and tried to compose herself. "Take me to my car. I need to go home and prepare." Logan drove her back to the restaurant parking lot, neither of them speaking. When he pulled up next to her car, Victoria didn't immediately get out. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not running. Most people would have run by now." "Most people are smarter than me," Victoria smiled. "Or less brave. I can't decide which." She kissed him one more time, soft and quick, and then she was gone, driving away into the night while Logan sat alone in the parking lot trying to process everything that had just happened. His phone rang, Emma's name on the screen. Logan answered, already knowing what was coming. "You're supposed to be asleep." "Aunt Rachel's asleep. We're not." Emma's voice was suspicious. "How was dinner?" "Complicated." "Did something bad happen?" Logan considered lying, protecting his daughters from the storm that was coming, but they'd been through worse. They deserved honesty. "A reporter found out about me and Victoria. It's going to be news. People at school might say things." Silence on the other end. Then Emma's voice, fierce and determined, "Let them talk. We don't care what people think. Em, it might get ugly." "So? We already dealt with ugly when Mom died. We can deal with it again." Emma paused. "Is Miss Victoria going to break up with you because of this?" "No, she's going to fight." "Good. Then we'll fight too." Emma's voice softened. "Dad, you're happy. Like actually happy. Not pretend happy. We're not letting anyone take that away." Logan's throat went tight. "When did you get so smart?" "I told you, I've always been smart. You just started listening." Emma yawned. "Get home safe. We love you." "Love you too, baby." Logan drove home feeling like he'd run a marathon. The house was dark except for one light in the living room. He found Rachel waiting up, concern etched on her face. "The girls are asleep for real now," she said. "Emma tried to stay up but crashed around 10. Want to tell me what happened?" Logan told her everything. The reporter, the board meeting, Victoria's determination to fight. Rachel listened without interrupting, her expression growing more worried with each detail. "This could get bad, Logan," she said when he finished. "I know. People are going to say terrible things about you, about Victoria, about whether you deserve your job." Rachel paused. "The girls are going to hear it. I know that too. And you're still doing this?" Logan thought about Victoria's real laugh, about the way she saw him as a person instead of a collection of broken pieces, about 3 years of being numb versus 3 weeks of being terrifyingly alive. Yeah, he said. I'm still doing this. Rachel studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. Good. Sarah would have kicked your butt if you ran away from someone who makes you happy. That's what I told Victoria. Great minds. Rachel stood up, gathering her things. Call me if you need anything. And Logan, I'm proud of you. For trying. She left, and Logan was alone in his quiet house. He checked on the girls, all three sleeping soundly, blissfully unaware of the storm coming. Emma had fallen asleep with her phone still in her hand, and Logan gently removed it, seeing she'd been researching how to handle media attention on YouTube. His terrifying, brilliant 8-year-old daughter was already preparing for battle. Logan went to his own room and tried to sleep, but his mind wouldn't stop racing. Tomorrow Victoria would face her board. Tomorrow the news would likely break. Tomorrow their relationship would become public property, analyzed and judged by people who knew nothing about them. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about the board meeting. Logan typed back. What's the worst they can do? Force me out. Destroy my reputation. Make me choose between the company and you. And if they make you choose? Victoria's response took several minutes. Then I choose you. Because the company was my father's dream. But this is mine. Logan stared at the message, his heart doing complicated things in his chest. He started to type a response, deleted it, started again. Finally settled on, that's terrifying and beautiful, and I don't know what to say except thank you. For what? For choosing me. For fighting. For being brave enough to try this even when it's insane. Victoria's next message was just a heart emoji, which somehow said more than words could. Logan finally fell asleep around 3 a.m, his phone still in his hand, Victoria's messages still on the screen. He dreamed of board meetings and reporters and 3 little girls standing in front of him like shields, fierce and unafraid. The next morning came too quickly. Logan got the girls ready for school in a fog of exhaustion and anxiety. Emma watched him with knowing eyes over breakfast. Big day? She asked. Big day, Logan confirmed. You've got this, Dad. And if you don't, we've got backup plans. Logan was afraid to ask what the backup plans entailed. Knowing his daughters, they probably involved blackmail or strategic email campaigns or something else that would terrify him and impress Victoria in equal measure. He dropped the girls at school and drove to the office, his stomach churning. Margaret was waiting by the elevators with coffee and a grim expression. Victoria's already in the boardroom, she said. The meeting started 10 minutes ago. She told me to send you straight in when you arrived. Logan took the coffee and headed for the boardroom, his heart pounding. Through the glass walls, he could see Victoria standing at the head of the table, facing down a row of older men in expensive suits. Her posture was rigid, her expression carved from ice. He pushed open the door, and every head turned to look at him. Mr. Hayes, the board chairman said coldly. How convenient. We were just discussing you. I'm sure you were. Logan moved to stand beside Victoria, a deliberate choice of sides. I assume you have questions about my qualifications. Among other things. The chairman, a man named Robert Sterling with silver hair and a smile like a shark, gestured to an empty chair. Please sit. Let's discuss your meteoric rise through this company. Logan remained standing. I'd rather not. This won't take long. Victoria's hand brushed against his. Brief, reassuring contact. Together, they faced the board that could destroy everything they were trying to build. My qualifications speak for themselves, Logan said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his chest. I have a master's degree in data analytics from Columbia, 10 years of experience in financial modeling, and I just saved this company millions of dollars by correcting errors in the Singapore proposal. If you want to question whether I earned my promotion, look at my work. Your work isn't in question, Mr. Hayes, Sterling said smoothly. Your relationship with our CEO is. My relationship with Victoria started after my promotion. The timeline is documented. The merit of my work is documented. What's your actual concern? Sterling's smile sharpened. The appearance of impropriety. The potential for conflict of interest. The message it sends when our CEO promotes someone she's romantically involved with, regardless of the timing. Then fire me, Logan said flatly. If my presence here is such a problem, terminate my employment, but leave Victoria out of it. Logan, don't, Victoria started. No. Logan turned to face her. They want to make this about you abusing your power. Let's remove me from the equation and see if they still have a complaint. Sterling leaned back in his chair, studying them both. That's very noble, Mr. Hayes. But it doesn't solve our problem. Our CEO's judgment is still in question. Your CEO's judgment, Victoria cut in, her voice like steel, just secured a deal that will generate $40 million in revenue over the next 3 years. Her judgment identified and promoted someone who caught errors your CFO's nephew created. Her judgment is the reason this company is still growing while our competitors are contracting. Victoria. Another board member started. I'm not finished. Victoria's eyes blazed. You want to question my personal life? Fine. But let's be clear about what you're really asking. You're asking if I'm capable of separating my professional responsibilities from my personal feelings. You're asking if I can be trusted to run this company without letting emotion cloud my judgment. She paused, looking each board member in the eye. I spent the last 3 days working 20-hour shifts to fix a crisis. I fired my CFO's nephew despite knowing it would create political problems. I brought in an independent auditor when I didn't have to. I've made every decision based on what's best for this company, not what's easiest or most comfortable. So yes, I'm dating someone who works for me. And no, it doesn't affect my ability to lead. The room was silent. Sterling's expression had shifted from smugness to something more calculating. This will be public knowledge soon, he said finally. How do you plan to handle the media scrutiny? With honesty, with transparency, and with the confidence that my work speaks for itself? Victoria's jaw set. I'm not resigning. I'm not ending my relationship. And if this board wants to force me out over my personal life, you're welcome to try. I own 42% of this company. My father's will stipulated that his remaining shares be held in trust for another 5 years, with me as the trustee. You literally cannot remove me. Sterling's face went red. This is highly inappropriate. What's inappropriate is you trying to control my personal life. What's inappropriate is you questioning the qualifications of someone who's proven himself repeatedly. What's inappropriate, Victoria's voice dropped to something dangerous, is you forgetting who actually runs this company. Logan watched Victoria face down the board with a mixture of awe and terror. This was the woman who'd built an empire from her father's legacy, fierce, uncompromising, and absolutely unwilling to back down. If there's nothing else, Victoria said into the stunned silence, Mr. Hayes and I have work to do. The Asia-Pacific expansion won't manage itself. She turned and walked out, not waiting to see if Logan would follow. He did, matching her stride, feeling the eyes of the board burning into his back. They made it to Victoria's office before her composure cracked. She closed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. That was, Logan started, insane, reckless, probably career suicide. Victoria laughed, but it sounded brittle. I just threatened my own board. My father would be horrified. Your father would be proud. You just defended your right to make your own choices. Or I just made everything worse. Victoria moved to her desk and collapsed into her chair. The media is going to have a field day with this. The story is already online. I got an alert during the meeting. She turned her computer screen so Logan could see. The headline made his stomach drop. Billionaire CEO's Office Romance. Merit or favoritism? The article was brutal. It questioned Logan's qualifications, speculated about when the relationship really started, and included quotes from unnamed sources suggesting Logan had used his connection to Victoria to advance his career. This is what I was afraid of, Logan said quietly. I know. And it's going to get worse. Victoria pulled up her email, which was already flooding with messages. Media requests, statements from competitors, think pieces about women in power and workplace relationships. We're the story of the day. Logan's phone buzzed, a text from Emma. Kids at school saw the article. Some of them are being jerks. We're handling it. His heart dropped. The girls know. What? Logan showed Victoria the text. She closed her eyes, and Logan saw genuine anguish cross her face. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Your daughters shouldn't have to deal with this. They're tougher than you think. Emma punched a kid, remember? This isn't funny, Logan. They're being harassed because of me. Because of us. We made this choice together. Logan pulled up a chair next to Victoria. And we're going to handle it together. Victoria's phone rang. She looked at the screen and sighed. It's the reporter, Jennifer Tate. She wants a comment. Then give her one. Tell her the truth. The truth is complicated. The truth is simple. Logan took Victoria's hand. Two people met at work, developed feelings, started seeing each other after professional boundaries were established. Both are good at their jobs. Both are trying to navigate something complicated with honesty and respect. Victoria stared at him. You want me to say that on the record? Why not? It's true. Because it makes us sound naive, like we don't understand the complexities. Or it makes us sound human. Logan squeezed her hand. We can't control what people think, Victoria. We can only control what we say and do. So let's say the truth and do our jobs and let the rest fall where it may. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she answered the phone. This is Victoria Hale. Logan listened as she gave the reporter a statement, clear, honest, unapologetic. Yes, she was seeing Logan Hayes. Yes, he worked for her company. No, that didn't affect his qualifications or her judgment. Yes, they understood the optics were complicated. No, they weren't ending their relationship to appease public opinion. She hung up and looked at Logan. That's going to make headlines. Probably. Your daughters are going to see it. They'll survive. They're survivors. Logan paused. Like their dad. Victoria's expression crumbled. She pulled Logan into a fierce hug, burying her face in his shoulder. He held her while she shook, feeling her fear and determination in equal measure. Thank you, she whispered, for not running, for staying, for being stubborn enough to believe this could work. Thank you for being worth the fight, Logan said into her hair. They stood there in the middle of Victoria's office, two people clinging to each other while the world tried to tear them apart. And somehow, despite everything, it felt like they might actually survive this. Outside the windows, the city continued on. Somewhere, a reporter was writing their story. Somewhere, Logan's daughters were defending their father's choices. Somewhere, a board of directors was plotting their next move. But in this moment, in this office, Logan Hayes held Victoria Hale and felt more alive than he had in 3 years. Scared, yes. Uncertain, absolutely. But alive in a way that mattered, and that, he was beginning to realize, was worth fighting for. The media storm lasted exactly 9 days before something bigger knocked them out of the headlines. A tech company scandal involving actual fraud made Logan and Victoria's relationship look quaint by comparison. But those 9 days had been brutal in ways Logan hadn't anticipated. The first 3 days were the worst. Logan's phone rang constantly with reporters wanting comments. His LinkedIn was flooded with messages from strangers, some supportive, most not. Someone created a meme of his employee photo next to Victoria's official headshot with the caption, "When you network your way to the top," that went viral enough that Emma saw it at school. She'd punched another kid over it. This time Logan couldn't even pretend to be mad. The second suspension came with a parent-teacher conference that Logan attended alone, sitting across from Principal Morrison, and trying to explain that his daughter wasn't violent, she was protective, that there was a difference between aggression and defense, that maybe the school should look at why so many kids felt comfortable mocking a child's family situation. Morrison had given him the look adults give when they think someone's making excuses. But she'd also reduced Emma's suspension to 1 day after Logan pointed out that Michael Gardner had received 3 days for his original comments about Sarah. Consistency mattered, he'd said. Or did it only matter when the victim wasn't related to someone in the news? Morrison hadn't liked that. Logan hadn't cared. Victoria had shown up at his house that night unannounced, carrying takeout and looking exhausted. The girls had swarmed her before Logan could say anything, all three talking over each other about the unfairness of suspension and media attention and how stupid everyone at school was being. "One at a time," Victoria had said, sitting down on the living room floor with them like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Emma first. Tell me what happened." Emma had explained about the meme, about the boys who'd surrounded her at lunch asking if her dad was gold-digging a billionaire, about how she'd tried to walk away but they'd followed her, pushing and prodding until she'd snapped and shoved one of them into a locker. "I didn't punch him this time," Emma had said defensively. "I showed restraint." Victoria had looked at Logan, something fierce in her eyes. Your daughter has excellent survival instincts. She has assault charges waiting to happen, Logan had corrected, but he'd been smiling despite himself. Potato, potato. Victoria had turned back to Emma. Here's what you need to understand. People are going to say cruel things because they're scared or jealous or just bored. You can't hit all of them. You'll run out of energy and end up in juvenile detention. So what do I do? Emma had asked. Emma, you outlast them. You be so good at what you do, so confident in who you are, that their words bounce off like rain. Victoria had paused. And when that doesn't work, you find the leader and you make them understand that messing with you has consequences. Not physical ones, strategic ones. Sophia's eyes had gone wide. Like what? Like becoming so successful, they'll brag about knowing you in high school. Like building a life so good their opinions don't matter. Like, Victoria had glanced at Logan. Like having people who love you so much they'll orchestrate elaborate email schemes to save you. All three girls had grinned at that. They'd eaten dinner together that night, take out on paper plates because Logan's kitchen still wasn't equipped for hosting. Victoria had helped clean up afterward, and when the girls had gone upstairs to get ready for bed, she'd pulled Logan aside. "I'm sorry," she'd said quietly. "This is my fault. The media attention, the scrutiny, your daughter's being harassed. Our fault," Logan had interrupted. "We made this choice together, remember? I should have anticipated this. Should have prepared better." Nobody can prepare for going viral as a meme. Logan had taken her hand. "We're surviving. That's enough." But Victoria's expression had said she didn't think survival was enough. The third day brought a development neither of them had expected. Logan had been in his office reviewing quarterly reports when Margaret had appeared in his doorway looking grim. "Conference room C," she'd said. "Now, and you might want to bring coffee." Logan had found Victoria already there, along with Thomas Chen and three other executives he recognized from senior leadership. Everyone had looked tense. "What's going on?" Logan had asked. Thomas had slid a folder across the table. "Whistleblower complaint. Someone claiming you falsified your credentials to get hired." Logan's stomach had dropped. "What?" Anonymous tipped to the board. "Says your master's degree from Columbia is fake, that you paid someone to create false transcripts." Thomas's expression had been carefully neutral. "Obviously, we have to investigate." "It's not fake," Logan had said, his voice tight. "I can provide original transcripts, recommendation letters, proof of enrollment. We know it's not fake," Victoria had cut in. "We already verified. This is someone trying to create doubt where none exists." "Who?" Logan had demanded. "We don't know yet. The complaint came through an anonymous email account." Victoria's jaw had been set. "But we're going to find out." The investigation had taken 2 days. 2 days of Logan being asked to prove he was who he said he was, to verify every job he'd ever held, every degree he'd earned. It had been humiliating and exhausting, and by the end of it, Logan had felt like a fraud even though he'd done nothing wrong. The investigation had cleared him, of course. Everything had checked out because everything was real. But the damage had been done. The whisper of doubt had been planted, and even after the all-clear, Logan had caught colleagues looking at him differently. Victoria had called another board meeting to announce the results. Logan had stood beside her while she'd delivered a statement clearing his name and promising consequences for whoever had filed the false complaint. Sterling had looked disappointed. That's when Logan had known where the complaint had originated. "You filed it," Logan had said, his voice carrying across the boardroom. "Or you had someone file it for you." Sterling's expression hadn't changed. "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Hayes, with serious evidence. The complaint was filed 12 hours after you questioned my qualifications. The timing is convenient." Logan had stepped forward, past the point of caring about political consequences. "You wanted to force Victoria to choose between the company and me. When she didn't, you tried to create a reason to fire me that would stick." "Logan," Victoria had started. "No." Logan had kept his eyes on Sterling. "I'm done playing nice. You want me gone because I'm inconvenient to your narrative. Because a CEO dating an employee challenges your comfortable worldview. So you manufactured a crisis." Sterling had stood up slowly. "You have no proof. Not yet. But I will." Logan had smiled without humor. "I'm very good at finding patterns in data. And I'm betting whoever you hired to file that complaint left a digital trail, IP addresses, email headers, metadata. It's all there if you know where to look. The room had gone silent. Sterling's face had gone red, then white. "This meeting is over," Victoria had said into the silence. "Mr. Sterling, my office. Now." What had happened in that meeting, Logan never fully learned. But Sterling had resigned from the board the next day, citing personal reasons. And the remaining board members had suddenly become very careful about questioning Victoria's judgment. The media attention had faded after that, replaced by the tech scandal and then by other news. Life had slowly returned to something approaching normal, though nothing would ever be quite the same. Which brought Logan to now, standing in his kitchen on a Saturday morning 6 months later, watching Victoria teach his daughters how to make French toast, while they critiqued her technique with the brutal honesty only 8-year-olds could deliver. "You're burning it," Sophia observed. "I'm caramelizing it," Victoria corrected. "That's just fancy talk for burning," Emma said. Victoria had looked at Logan with mock desperation. "Your daughters are ruthless. They learn from the best," Logan had replied, kissing her temple as he passed to get coffee. The gesture had been automatic, comfortable in a way that still surprised him sometimes. 6 months of dating Victoria had taught Logan things about himself he'd forgotten. That he could laugh without guilt, that he could plan for a future instead of just surviving the present, that he could love again without betraying the love he'd lost. Sarah would have liked Victoria. The thought came to Logan sometimes, usually in quiet moments like this. Sarah would have appreciated Victoria's fierce intelligence and her refusal to apologize for taking up space. She would have laughed at the way Victoria pretended to be bad at cooking when she was actually quite good, just to make the girls feel superior. "Dad, Miss Victoria says she wants to take us somewhere today," Lily announced, appearing at his elbow. "Somewhere special." Logan looked at Victoria, who was studiously focused on her allegedly burning French toast. "Oh, really?" "It's a surprise," Victoria said. "But you should probably all get dressed. Nice clothes, not play clothes." The girls had erupted in speculation and scattered to get ready. Logan had moved to stand next to Victoria at the stove. "What are you planning?" he'd asked quietly. "Something probably insane, definitely premature, possibly going to make you run screaming." Victoria had turned to face him, nervous in a way he rarely saw. "But your daughters have been dropping hints for weeks, and I thought, maybe it's time." Logan's heart had done something complicated. "Time for what?" "You'll see. Trust me?" "Always." 2 hours later, they'd pulled up to a house in a neighborhood Logan had driven through but never seriously considered. The houses here were bigger than his rental, with actual yards and trees that had been growing for decades. Family homes, the kind where kids grew up and parents grew old, and life happened in all its messy glory. Victoria had parked and turned to look at all of them. "Before we go in, I need to explain something. This house is for sale. It's been on the market for 3 weeks, and I've been watching it because—" She'd paused, gathering courage. "Because I thought it might be perfect for a family that's outgrown a rental with 1 bathroom and a kitchen the size of a closet." Emma's eyes had gone wide. "You want us to move here?" "I want to help you move here, if you want to. If Logan wants to." Victoria's hands had been gripping the steering wheel. The house has 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a yard big enough for whatever 8-year-olds do in yards. It's zoned for a good school district, and it's close enough to my place that I could visit frequently, if that's something everyone wants. Logan had stared at the house, his throat tight. It was perfect. A craftsman style with a porch swing and flower beds that needed tending. A house that looked like it was meant for laughter and scraped knees and family dinners. A house that looked like home. "You found us a house," he'd said, his voice rough. "I found you options. This is just one of them. We can look at others, or not look at all, or—" Victoria's nervous rambling had been cut off by 3 girls launching themselves from the back seat to hug her from behind. "Can we see inside?" Sophia had asked. "Is there a room for each of us?" Lily had added. "Does it have a good kitchen for Miss Victoria to burn French toast in?" Emma had grinned. Victoria had laughed, tears in her eyes. "Yes to all 3, come on!" The house had been everything the outside promised, and more. Hardwood floors that needed refinishing, windows that let in too much light in the best way, a kitchen with actual counter space and a breakfast nook. The girls had run through it like a tornado, claiming bedrooms and planning where furniture would go. Logan had found Victoria standing in what would be the master bedroom, looking out the window at the backyard. "This is too much," he'd said quietly. "It's an investment. Real estate is—" "Victoria." She'd turned to face him. "I want to give you this. All of you. A fresh start in a place that's not haunted by memories. A home where we can build new memories together. We can't accept this. It's too expensive, too—" "I'm not buying it for you. I'm buying it for me." Victoria's voice had been fierce. "Because I want a place where I can have dinner with you and the girls without feeling like I'm invading your space. Because I want somewhere that feels like ours, not yours or mine, but ours. Because—" her voice had dropped to a whisper. "Because I'm falling in love with all four of you, and I need a place where that love can grow." Logan had pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "You're insane." "Completely. Is that a yes?" "That's a, let me contribute to the down payment and we can discuss the rest." Victoria had pulled back to look at him. "Logan Hayes, are you negotiating with me?" "Someone has to. You're terrible at not buying things impulsively." "This isn't impulsive. I've been planning this for weeks." "That's still impulsive by normal people's standards." They'd argued about it for another 10 minutes before compromising. Victoria would buy the house, Logan would cover utilities and maintenance, and they'd split grocery costs because Victoria insisted she wanted to be useful. It wasn't equal, but it was what worked for them. The girls had been thrilled. Emma had immediately started planning how to decorate her room. Sophia had claimed the room with the best light for her art projects. Lily had found a reading nook in the hallway and declared it perfect for quiet time. They'd moved in 3 weeks later. Rachel had helped, along with Margaret, who'd appeared with color-coded boxes and a labeling system that had made the whole process terrifyingly efficient. Victoria had taken the day off, which had scandalized her assistant but delighted the girls, who'd put her to work hauling boxes while Logan managed the actual moving logistics. The first night in the new house, they'd eaten pizza on the living room floor because the furniture wasn't fully arranged yet. The girls had fallen asleep in a pile in front of the TV, exhausted from excitement and unpacking. Logan had carried them to their new bedrooms one by one, tucking them in and marveling at how different everything felt. Victoria had been waiting in the master bedroom when he'd finished, sitting on the edge of the bed they'd picked out together, their bed in their house, in this life they were building. "Thank you," Logan had said, sitting beside her. "For what?" "For seeing us as worth investing in, for being patient while I figured out how to be alive again, for loving my daughters like they're yours." Victoria had taken his hand. "They're mine. Maybe not legally, maybe not biologically, but they're mine in every way that matters. Is that okay?" Logan had kissed her instead of answering, pouring 3 years of grief and 6 months of healing and all his hope for the future into it. When they'd finally pulled apart, Victoria had been crying. "I need to tell you something," she'd said. "Something I've been afraid to say." "Okay, I want this to be permanent. Not just the house, but us. All of us." Victoria's hands had been shaking. "I want to marry you, Logan. I want to legally adopt your daughters if they'll have me. I want to build a life that's messy and complicated and nothing like the perfect corporate image I'm supposed to maintain." Logan's heart had stopped. "Victoria, I know it's fast. I know people will say we're rushing. I know there are 1,000 practical and logical reasons to wait." Victoria's voice had been fierce despite the tears. "But I've spent my whole life being practical and logical, and it's made me successful but lonely. And I'm done being lonely. I'm done waiting for the perfect time that never comes. I want this. I want you. I want those 3 brilliant, terrifying girls who orchestrated this whole thing. I want the chaos and the noise and the life that happens when you stop trying to control everything." "Are you asking me to marry you?" Logan had managed. "Yes. Badly, apparently, but yes." Victoria had pulled out a box from her pocket. When had she gotten that? And opened it to reveal a simple silver band. "I know traditionally the man asks, but I'm a CEO, and I'm terrible at waiting for other people to make decisions. So, Logan Hayes, will you marry me and let me be part of this family you've built?" Logan had looked in the ring, at Victoria's tear-stained face, at this woman who'd seen him at his worst and decided he was worth fighting for anyway. He'd thought about Sarah, about the love they'd shared and the loss that had nearly destroyed him. And he'd realized that loving Victoria didn't diminish what he'd had with Sarah. It just proved he was capable of loving again. Yes, he'd said, but on one condition. What? We tell the girls together. They started this whole thing. They should know they succeeded. Victoria had laughed through her tears and kissed him. They'd made love in their new house, in their new bed, in this new life they were building together. And afterward, lying in the dark with Victoria's head on his chest, Logan had felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. They told the girls the next morning over breakfast. Actual breakfast at the kitchen table, not burned French toast, but scrambled eggs that Victoria hadn't ruined. The girls had screamed loud enough to wake the neighbors, then demanded to know everything. When was the wedding? Could they be flower girls? Was Victoria going to be their mom now? Could they call her mom, or was that weird? Whatever you're comfortable with, Victoria had said, her voice thick with emotion. I'm not trying to replace your mother. I could never replace her, but I'd be honored to be another mom. A bonus mom. Whatever works for you. Emma had thought about it seriously. Can we call you Victoria Mom? To differentiate? That sounds perfect. Sophia had climbed into Victoria's lap. Does this mean we don't have to go back to our old school? Because those kids are jerks. You're already enrolled in the school district here. Fresh start. Victoria had kissed the top of Sophia's head. And if anyone's a jerk, you come tell me and I'll handle it. No corporate espionage on elementary schoolers, Logan had warned. I make no promises. Lily had been quiet through all of it, watching with her thoughtful eyes. Finally, she'd spoken up. Dad, are you happy? Like really happy? Not just pretending? Logan had pulled Lily close. Yeah, baby, I'm really happy. Good. You deserve to be happy. Lily had looked at Victoria. You too, Victoria, Mom. You were lonely before. We could tell. Victoria had started crying again, which had set off a chain reaction of emotional daughters and one overwhelmed father trying to hold everyone together while falling apart himself. The wedding had happened 3 months later, a small ceremony in the backyard of their new house, with just family and close friends. Emma, Sophia, and Lily had indeed been flower girls, wearing matching dresses they'd picked out themselves and carrying bouquets they'd helped arrange. Rachel had been Logan's best woman, making a speech that had everyone laughing and crying in equal measure. Margaret had been Victoria's maid of honor, shocking everyone by getting visibly emotional during the vows. Apparently, even terrifyingly efficient executive assistants had feelings. The ceremony itself had been simple. No elaborate decorations, no expensive venue, just 2 people promising to love each other through the mess and chaos of life. Logan's vows had mentioned Sarah, thanking her for teaching him what love looked like, for giving him 3 incredible daughters, for showing him that even in loss there could be beauty. Victoria's vows had mentioned her father, the man who'd built an empire but died before seeing his daughter find happiness. She'd promised to honor his legacy while building her own, to be the kind of person he'd raised her to be while also being the person Logan and the girls needed. There hadn't been a dry eye in the backyard. The reception had devolved into chaos within an hour, which felt appropriate. The girls had led a dance-off that somehow involved everyone, including Margaret, who had surprising moves. The food had been catered by Giuseppe's, the restaurant where this whole thing had started, and the cake had been slightly lopsided because Logan had insisted on making it himself over Victoria's protests. It tastes better when it's imperfect, he'd argued. It tastes better when it's not collapsing, Victoria had countered. The cake had been delicious despite its structural issues. As the sun had set and the party wound down, Logan had found himself standing on the porch with Victoria, watching their guests mingle and their daughters run through the yard catching fireflies. We did it, Victoria had said softly. We survived the media circus, the board investigation, and planning a wedding with 3 8-year-olds. We're invincible. Victoria had laughed. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still have to survive raising 3 8-year-olds into functional adults. With our combined traumatic childhoods and workaholic tendencies, we're doomed. Completely. Victoria had leaned against him. But we're doomed together. That counts for something. Logan had wrapped his arm around his wife, that still felt surreal, and watched his daughters play. Emma had caught a firefly and was examining it with scientific precision. Sophia was trying to choreograph the firefly catching into some kind of interpretive dance. Lily was sitting in the grass just watching the lights, peaceful and present. "I need to tell you something," Logan had said. "If you're having second thoughts, you should have mentioned them before the vows." "Not second thoughts. Gratitude." Logan had turned Victoria to face him. 6 months ago, I was numb. Not living, just existing. Going through motions and convincing myself that was enough. And then 3 terrifying little girls decided I deserved better and staged an intervention disguised as a dinner date. Best intervention ever. It really was. Logan had cupped Victoria's face. "You gave me my life back. You showed me that surviving isn't the same as living, that being broken doesn't mean being worthless, that it's okay to try again even when you're terrified." Victoria's eyes had filled with tears. "You gave me just as much. You showed me that success isn't the same as happiness, that vulnerability isn't weakness, that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real." They'd kissed as the sun disappeared behind the trees, and Logan had felt Sarah's presence like a warm hand on his shoulder. Not haunting, not painful, just there, a reminder that love didn't end when life did, that the people who shaped us stayed part of us even after they were gone. "Thank you," he'd whispered, not sure if he was talking to Victoria or Sarah or both. "For what?" Victoria had asked. "Victoria, for refusing to let me fade away, for being stubborn and brilliant and brave enough to fight for this." Logan had gestured at the yard, the house, the life they'd built, for proving that second chances are real. "We proved it together," Victoria had corrected. "You, me, and 3 girls who refused to accept that their father was broken beyond repair." Speaking of those girls, Emma had appeared on the porch holding a jar with 3 fireflies inside. "Victoria, Mom, look, we caught enough to make wishes." "What are you wishing for?" Victoria had asked. "That's cheating. You're not supposed to tell or it won't come true." Emma had opened the jar, letting the fireflies escape into the darkening sky. "But I'll give you a hint. It involves all of us being happy." "I think that wish already came true," Logan had said. Emma had considered this. "Then I'm wishing for it to stay true. That's allowed, right?" "Definitely allowed." Victoria had pulled Emma into a hug, and Sophia and Lily had appeared as if summoned, creating a tangle of arms and love and belonging. Logan had stood there holding his family, his wife, his daughters, his second chance at life, and felt overwhelmed by the impossible luck of it all. What were the odds that 3 8-year-olds would successfully orchestrate a relationship? That a billionaire CEO would see past his broken edges to the person underneath? That grief wouldn't be the end of his story, but just a chapter in something larger? "Dad, you're crying," Lily had observed. Happy tears, Logan had managed. "Those are allowed too," Sophia had said wisely. They'd stood there on the porch as night fell completely, the fireflies dancing around them like tiny miracles. The house behind them glowed with warm light. Their house, their home, their proof that broken things could be repaired and second chances were real if you were brave enough to take them. Inside, Rachel and Margaret were probably coordinating cleanup with terrifying efficiency. The remains of the lopsided cake sat on the kitchen counter, a monument to imperfection that tasted like love. The flower girl dresses were already rumpled and grass-stained because that's what happened when you let children be children. Everything was messy and imperfect and absolutely right. "We should go help clean up," Victoria had said without moving. "We should," Logan had agreed, also not moving. In a minute, Emma had decided for all of them. So they'd stayed there, a family of 5 now instead of 4, watching the fireflies and the stars and the future unfold in front of them. There would be hard days ahead. Parenting didn't get easier just because you fell in love. Work pressures didn't vanish because you were happy. And grief had a way of resurfacing when you least expected it. But they'd face those days together. Logan would teach Victoria how to braid hair, and the girls would teach her which YouTube channels were acceptable viewing. Victoria would teach all of them that success came from trying, not from being perfect. And together, they'd build a life that honored both Sarah's memory and the new family they'd created. 3 years ago, Logan Hayes had been a ghost in his own life, going through motions and convincing himself that survival was enough. His wife had died, his world had ended, and he'd retreated into numbness because feeling anything seemed impossible. But three brilliant, terrifying daughters had refused to accept that their father was lost forever. They'd seen him fading and decided to intervene with the boldness only children possess. They'd studied his email patterns, crafted the perfect message, and sent him toward a woman who would change everything. Victoria Hale had been lonely in a crowd, successful but isolated, powerful but longing for connection. She'd seen Logan, really seen him, broken pieces and all, and decided he was worth fighting for. She'd defended him to her board, stood by him through media scrutiny, and loved his daughters like they were her own. And somehow, impossibly, two broken people had found each other and built something whole. That was the thing about second chances, Logan thought as he held his family under the stars. They didn't erase the first chance or make the loss less painful. They didn't fix everything or guarantee a perfect ending. They just proved that life could continue after tragedy, that love could bloom again after devastation, that being broken wasn't the same as being destroyed. You could survive loss and still learn to live again. You could honor the past while building a future. You could be imperfect and messy and still be worthy of love. "I'm glad you sent that email," Logan said to Emma, who was still pressed against his side. "Which one? We sent like 12 before we found the right tone." Victoria laughed. 12 drafts? "We're perfectionists," Sophia said proudly. "You're terrifying," Victoria corrected, but she was smiling. "We're your terrifying daughters now," Emma pointed out. "You're stuck with us." "Best decision I ever made," Victoria said, and Logan heard the truth in her voice. They finally went inside to help clean up, Emma and Sophia arguing about the proper way to stack dishes, while Lily organized the leftover flowers into new arrangements. Rachel cornered Logan in the kitchen, her eyes bright with emotion. "Sarah would be so proud," she said quietly, "of you, of the girls, of this whole beautiful mess you've created." Logan's throat tightened. "You think so?" "I know so. She'd love Victoria. She'd appreciate someone who doesn't let you wallow in self-pity and who treats the girls like the brilliant terrors they are." Rachel hugged him tight. "You didn't just move on, Logan. You moved forward. There's a difference." "Thank you. For everything. For watching the girls, for believing I could get here, for not giving up on me when I'd given up on myself. That's what family does." Rachel pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Now go be with your wife before she tries to reorganize the kitchen according to some corporate filing system." Logan found Victoria doing exactly that, much to Margaret's approval. He pulled her away with the excuse of needing help with something upstairs, which fooled no one but got them a moment alone in their bedroom. "Hi," Victoria said, closing the door behind them. "Hi, wife." "Hi, husband," Victoria smiled. "That's going to take some getting used to." "We have time." Logan pulled her close. All the time in the world. They stood there in their bedroom, in their house, in their life. And Logan marveled at the journey that had brought them here. From grief to numbness to a terrifying first dinner to this, marriage, family, home. Downstairs, their daughters were probably getting into something they shouldn't. Outside, the fireflies still danced through the summer night. Tomorrow, there would be work and responsibilities and the 1,000 small crises that made up daily life. But tonight, Logan Hayes was exactly where he needed to be. Not in the past with his grief, not in the future with his worries, but right here in the present with the people he loved. He'd learned something important these past months, something worth remembering. Healing wasn't linear. It wasn't about forgetting or moving on or being suddenly fixed. It was about learning to carry your loss without letting it carry you. It was about honoring what you'd had while making room for what could be. It was about being brave enough to try again, even when every instinct screamed at you to stay safe. Most importantly, healing was about the people who refused to let you disappear. The daughters who staged interventions disguised as dinner dates. The woman who saw past your broken edges to the person underneath. The family and friends who believed you could be more than your grief. Logan kissed his wife, listened to his daughters laugh downstairs, and felt grateful for every messy, imperfect moment that had led him here. Life after loss was possible. Love after grief was real. And sometimes, when 3 8-year-old girls decided their father deserved better, miracles actually happened. Not perfect miracles, not smooth or easy or without complications, but real miracles nonetheless. The kind that prove that even when you think your story is over, there might be chapters you haven't imagined yet. Chapters full of laughter and chaos and love and fireflies in the summer darkness, chapters worth living for. Ready to go back down? Victoria asked. Ready to face whatever comes next? Logan countered. With you and those 3 terrifying girls? Always. They went downstairs hand in hand back to their family and their party and their beautifully imperfect life. And somewhere, Logan liked to think, Sarah was watching and smiling, proud of her daughters who'd refused to give up, grateful for the woman who'd brought their father back to life, at peace knowing that love didn't end, it just evolved into new forms. The night stretched on, full of laughter and love and the kind of happiness that comes not from everything being perfect, but from everything being real. And in a house that smelled like cake and flowers and new beginnings, Logan Hayes finally understood what it meant to be alive again. Not just surviving, living. And that made all the difference.